Chapter 457. In the middle of the night, the inn was actually very lively. It was almost overcrowded, so much so that Lin Muyu had to spend 3 jinyin coins to get 2 empty rooms. After carefully instructing the waiter to feed the horses, Lin Muyu took off her straw cape and walked into the inn's lobby with the 2 beautiful women. The moment they stepped into the lobby, they could feel the evil around them. There were 4 people sitting at a table on the left, all dressed in mercenary attire. Their battle axes and broadswords were placed on the table. The mercenaries were burly, and there were scars on their faces and arms. It was obvious that they lived a life of blood on the edge of a knife. When Lin Muyu walked in with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, the mercenaries immediately looked over. Their gazes fell on the 2 beautiful women's impressive figures and beautiful faces, and they immediately burst into laughter. Lin Muyu frowned and ignored the group of people. These mercenaries were only at the human realm. To put it bluntly, they were only slightly stronger than ordinary people. They did not even know how to use their spiritual senses to sense the strength of their opponent's aura. However, in the corner of the inn, a swordsman who was drinking by himself surprised Lin Muyu. This person had a thin sword on the table and was drinking 1 cup after another. He did not look at her at all. Using the spirit meridian technique, Lin Muyu quickly sensed that this person's body did not have essential qi or battle qi. Instead, it was a rather violent aura, and it was very vigorous. Who could it be? Was it a demon? His head was lowered, and Lin Muyu could not see his eyes, so she could not be sure. After finding an empty table and sitting down, Lin Muyu ordered, "Waiter, give me a pot of wine, a few of your signature dishes, and a plate of steamed buns. That's all." "All right, please wait for a moment, dear customer." After Qin Yin sat down, she took off her cloak and untied her hair. Her long hair cascaded down her shoulders like a waterfall. She smiled and said, "We are very close to Divine Shadow City. We are at most 2 days away from the Cloud Ridge. I didn't expect us to travel so fast." Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said rather proudly, "Our endless forest's warhorses are the best in the world. Their leg strength and endurance are few and far between on the continent. Our mounts are also the best in the endless forest, so traveling 1,000 miles in a day is nothing difficult." Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. "Okay, the warhorses of the endless forest are the best, okay?" Lin Muyu said, "Along the way, I heard that a divine weapon fell from the heaven realm on the Cloud Ridge, which is why countless experts came here to fight for it. After so many days, it is said that the divine weapon is still ownerless." "A divine weapon that fell from the heaven realm?" Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth and said, "It sounds so powerful." "Mumu, do you know what it is?" "I don't know." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "Moreover, after so many days, the world still hasn't found this divine weapon. Something must have happened, or someone is spreading rumors. In reality, there is no such divine weapon." At this point, Lin Muyu faintly felt that someone was looking in their direction. It was the young warrior who was drinking wine with his head lowered. Qin Yin sat there in a dignified and virtuous manner. She smiled and said, "No problem, we will know the truth when we get there." "Okay." At this time, the waiter had already started to serve wine and dishes, filling the table. The big white steamed buns also looked very tempting. After a day of continuous travel, Lin Muyu was long famished. She didn't hesitate to grab a steamed bun and take a bite. It was very fragrant. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had been influenced by noble etiquette since they were young. Naturally, they wouldn't wolf down their food like Lin Muyu. Even if they were really hungry, they would maintain their ladylike demeanor and eat in small bites. Just as Lin Muyu ate the 3rd steamed bun and half a white fish, a few mercenaries at a table not far away were already drunk. One by one, they carried wine jugs and wine glasses and walked over. One of them stood beside Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Little brother, you are so lucky to have 2 beautiful women drinking with you. I am so envious." Another mercenary with a dagger on his waist laughed and said, "2 ladies, how about you do us the honor of drinking with us?" A smile appeared on Tang Xiaoxi's face. She raised her head and glanced at the mercenaries. How do you want to play? She asked with a smile. This lady has asked a good question. The mercenary with 2 scars on his face grinned and said, play is play. If you can make us brothers happy today, we will bring you to the Cloud Ridge to look for the divine weapon tomorrow. How about it? As he spoke, he unsheathed the dagger at his waist. With a shwa-shwa sound, rays of light shot out like shuttles. He raised his eyebrows and said, you have a good eye. The abilities of us brothers are not something that this hot-headed pretty boy can compare to. Lin Muyu was immediately unhappy. She held the steamed bun in her hand and said, hothead, you can't be talking about me, right? I'm talking about you. What about it? Can't I? The mercenary tilted his head and looked at Lin Muyu as he laughed. Behind them, when the waiters saw these mercenaries drinking and causing trouble, none of them dared to say anything. They all hid behind the counter as if they were afraid of being accidentally injured. This kind of thing must have happened frequently in this inn. Qin Yin smiled and said, brother, you, don't be polite. Teach them a lesson and let them know how high the heavens are and how deep the earth is. Lin Muyu nodded and slowly stood up. She discovered that she was not as tall as these mercenaries. She felt as if she had suffered a blow and the dignity in her eyes suddenly increased. She said in a low voice, don't you think it's impolite to stand and talk to me? Under the pressure of the domain, the mercenaries felt as if their legs were filled with lead. One by one, they knelt in front of Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu held half a steamed bun in her hand and smiled at the scar-faced mercenary. What is this? The scar-faced mercenary's face was filled with anger. Bastard, what kind of sorcery did you use on me? I only want to ask you, what is this? Half a steamed bun. No, not half a steamed bun. Lin Muyu smiled brightly. It's half a steamed bun to send you out. What did you say? Before the scar-faced mercenary could say anything else, the half-steamed bun in Lin Muyu's hands suddenly flew out. Bang! An oppressive force slammed into the scar-faced mercenary's chest and the faint sound of his ribs breaking could be heard. The scar-faced mercenary's body flew out like a cannonball and smashed through the window. He fell into the muddy water outside and screamed miserably. You dare to take liberties with my girl? You're looking to die. Lin Muyu said lightly. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were expressionless. What do you mean by your girl? It sounds weird, you dare to take liberties with my girl? You're looking to die. Lin Muyu repeated. Are we just your girls? The 2 girls asked proudly. You dare to take liberties with my girl? You're looking to die. Lin Muyu corrected herself. Are we your girls? The 2 girls blushed. You dare to take liberties with my girl? You're looking to die. Lin Muyu wanted to die. An empress and a princess were both hard to please. The faces of the other mercenaries turned pale. One of them who had good eyesight hurriedly cupped his fists and said, This young master, we have eyes but failed to see and have offended you. We hope that you will forgive us and spare our lowly lives. As he spoke, he knelt down again. Lin Muyu glanced at him. These mercenaries must have bullied a lot of people. Lin Muyu said, Go pay the bill and get out. Remember, use roll. Yes. Yes, young master, we will get out now. He grabbed a handful of silver coins and threw them on the counter. Immediately, he bent his body and rolled out of the room. He was covered in mud. These people were the ones who knew what to do. Rolling in mud was definitely more worthwhile than having a few broken bones. At this moment, a group of people sitting on the other side of the hall stood up. One of them, who was about 30 years old and dressed in luxurious clothes, walked forward with a long sword in his hand. He cupped his hands and said, Sir, you seem to have extraordinary skills. You must be aiming for the divine weapon, right? There are many spirit beasts and bandits on the way from Divine Shadow City to Yunling. Why don't we travel together? Lin Muyu asked, May I know who you are? Oh, I'm Yuchi Kai, the young master of the 10,000 Swords Villa in Divine Shadow City. I'm from a branch family of the Yuchi family in Heaven's Pivot Province. I'm at the third firmament of the Earth realm. The people behind me are my retainers, and their strength ranges from the human realm to the heaven realm. There are more than 20 of them. Young Master Yuchi, do you know where the divine weapon is? Lin Muyu asked. I do. Yuchi Kai's voice deepened as he said, the divine weapon fell from the heaven realm and smashed a huge crater on the west side of the cloud ridge. However, no one could find the divine weapon. There were only corpses and traces of battle left at the scene. Many people were killed. I'm guessing that the divine weapon must have fallen into the hands of an expert or a spirit beast. I see. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and asked, Xiao Yin, this young Master Yuchi knows where the divine weapon is. Should we travel together? Qin Yin smiled. I'll listen to you. All right. Lin Muyu nodded. Young Master Yuchi, let's travel together. I am Lin Ji. I hope we can look out for each other along the way. When we reach Yunling, we will split up and search for the divine weapon on our own. All right, that's exactly what I want. That night, the autumn rain still did not stop. The autumn wind blew in through the gaps between the windows, and the candlelight swayed gently. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin were studying the map carefully, while Lin Muyu stood by the window, looking at the rainy night outside in silence. Mu, why did you agree to travel with Yuchi Kai? Tang Xiaoxi suddenly asked. We are unfamiliar with this place, so we can't find the way. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, a few years ago, after we recovered Tianshu province from the Iha kingdom, wasn't the Yuchi family executed for treason? Why are there still so many people? Qin Yin smiled and explained, although I ordered the execution of the Yuchi family, Tianshu province was under grandfather's control. It seems that after General Feng conquered Divine Shadow City, grandfather did not order the execution of Yuchi Tian, Yuchi Yen, and the others. Instead, he secretly left them in the imperial capital and gathered the Yuchi family to forge weapons for grandfather. Because of this, the quality of the weapons of the Steel Blade Army is no less than that of the Longdan Army camp. I see. I knew it. Chapter 458. The next morning, the rain stopped, and the sound of horses' hooves could be heard outside the inn. The people of the Yuchi family were ready to set off, while Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi slowly finished their breakfast of bread and vegetable soup. Then they walked out of the door and took the reins of the horses from the hands of the inn's waiter. Yuchi Kai stepped forward and said with a smile, Young Master Lin Ji, we are ready to set off. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said, My apologies, young Lord Yuchi. My two cousins and I woke up rather late, sorry to keep you waiting. I didn't wait long. You're too polite. Yuchi Kai stepped forward and glanced at the horses of Lin Muyu and the others. A trace of surprise flashed across his face as he said, Young Master Lin Ji, your horses don't look like the horses of the commoners. They aren't frightened in the face of strangers and their hooves are steady. They look like well-trained, war horses, right? Lin Muyu nodded and thought quickly. Then she replied, Yes, our Lin family is also a famous and scholarly family in Lanyan City, so my father bought a few warhorses for me and my two cousins in private. This kind of thing is extremely common in Lanyan City. Yes. Yuchi Kai was a little embarrassed. There were countless famous families in Lanyan City, and he had no way to check whether there was a Lin family one by one. He could only be fooled by Lin Muyu. Everyone mounted their horses one by one and began to hurry on. The autumn wind was warm and cool. This was the provincial road of Tianshu province. There was an endless stream of pedestrians on the road. There were businessmen coming and going, travelers on horseback, and more wandering mercenaries carrying weapons and wearing rough armor. Lin Muyu roughly counted along the way and saw at least hundreds of wandering mercenaries. Most of these wandering mercenaries did not ride horses. After all, horses were very expensive, and ordinary mercenaries did not have the financial resources to afford them. As if seeing the emotion in Lin Muyu's eyes, Yuchi Kai rode side by side and said with a smile, since the chaos of the Iha kingdom 4 years ago, the people's livelihood has withered. Many people can't make a living, so they can only put down their hoes, forge a weapon, and join the ranks of wandering mercenaries. They seek revenge and do things everywhere. I don't know how many people have died. Now the food production in Jianghu province is less than half of what it was 4 years ago, but the number of mercenaries is 5 times that of 4 years ago. Young Master Yuchi, do these mercenaries also want to go to Yunling to find the heavenly weapon? Qin Yin asked. Yes. Yuchi Kai took another look at Qin Yin's beautiful face and couldn't help but feel excited. He said, legend has it that this heavenly weapon fell from outer space. Perhaps it is a heavenly weapon. If you can get this heavenly weapon, you can use it to practice peerless martial arts. At the very least, you can offer it to Her Highness, Qin Yin, and you won't lose the chance to be a noble. Everyone has the same dream, that is, to use this heavenly weapon to change their lives. Lin Muyu smiled and did not speak. She just held the reins of the war horse and looked at the green mountains and fields around her leisurely, as well as enjoying the late autumn fruits and the fragrance of the fields on both sides of the official road. Yuchi Kai's heart was beating like a drum. He tried to detect Lin Muyu's power with his spiritual mind, but he could only feel that he could not see the depth of this person's power. It was like a pool of water. It could be as still as a pool, or it could be as monstrous as the sky. There was no way to predict it. The 2 beautiful girls beside him were the same. They could not see any clues about their power. Cough, cough, Yuchi Kai smiled a little awkwardly and said, last night, I saw young Master Lin Ji easily defeat a few mercenaries. Judging from young Master's cultivation, you should at least be a battle saint, right? Lin Muyu smiled modestly. It's all right, it's all right. Yuchi Kai cursed in his heart. What kind of answer was that? So he rubbed his nose resentfully and said, young Master Lin Ji should know that seizing the divine weapon on the Cloud Ridge this time is not that simple. There are already many forces and experts on the continent who have set foot in the Heaven's Pivot province. Oh. Lin Muyu's interest was piqued. Who are they? Yuchi Kai said, the sect master of the Ice Extreme sect, Su Yi, is at the peak of the Law of Ice. It is said that he has brought more than a dozen experts from the Ice Extreme sect from the snowy region of the Cloud Ridge province. Also, the sect master of the Giant Rock sect, Ouyang Qing, has also led his disciples into the Cloud Ridge. In addition, more than a dozen large and small clans from the Heaven's Pivot province, North Ridge province, South Ridge province, and Cloud province have all sent people to the Heaven's Pivot province. It is said that even the South Ridge Ihan nation has sent the peak experts from the House of Chivalry to the Cloud Ridge. As he spoke, Yuchi Kai pondered for a moment and said, it's not that easy to seize the divine weapon from the hands of so many experts. So many people. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. There are so many opponents. Young Master, are you confident? Yuchi Kai looked a little embarrassed and said, my cultivation is too shallow. I'm afraid I won't be able to stand out among the experts from the various clans and sections. So, we need to gather all our strength to fight against them. Young Master Lin Ji, Yuchi Kai would like to invite you to join our team and search for the divine weapon together. If we really obtain the divine weapon, how will we distribute it? Lin Muyu asked. Yuchi Kai was stunned and said, that's easy. As long as young Master Lin Ji can help the 10,000 Swords village obtain the divine weapon, Yuchi Kai is willing to offer half of the village's wealth to young Master. It's about 700,000 Jinin coins. Young Master, are you willing? Lin Muyu shook her head. Forget it. Let's go our separate ways after we reach the Yun Mountains. Actually, I also want to see what the legendary divine weapon looks like. Yuchi Kai's voice was a little shaky as he said, since young Master Yuchi is a prominent family in the imperial capital, you must know about the Yuchi family in the Jianghu province. Ever since the family head surrendered to the Ihan nation and was defeated, the Yuchi family has been in a state of decline. Yuchi Kai wants to rely on his own strength to restore the Yuchi family's former prestige. Therefore, this weapon is very important to me. I believe that young Master Lin Ji must be an expert. If I, Yuchi Kai, really obtain this divine weapon, I hope that young master will show mercy. Lin Muyu frowned and said, all right. If young master Yuchi really obtains the divine weapon, I promise I won't do anything to you. But I won't protect you either. Yuchi Kai sighed. Thank you for your honesty, young master. After a day and a night, the group entered the barren mountains. They were already close to the Yun Mountains and were surrounded by deep jungles. Endless fiery red maple trees covered the mountains, and the roads had disappeared. The warhorses could only tread slowly on the mountain roads. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi's endless forest warhorses could still endure the hardships, but the horses of Yuchi Kai and the others were a little tired, especially the retainers, who were already lagging far behind. We've entered the Yun Mountains. Yuchi Kai's face was dewy. He cupped his hands and said, young Master Lin Ji, let's part ways here. I wish you good luck. Lin Muyu also cupped her hands and said, all right, let's part ways here. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, let's go. Yes. The three spurred their warhorses together. Immediately, the horses neighed and galloped through the mountains, disappearing from Yuchi Kai and the other's sight in the blink of an eye. Sigh, Yuchi Kai sighed. One of the retainers asked, young master, what's so great about this Lin Ji that you treat him so politely? I've never seen you so polite to anyone before. Yuchi Kai looked at him coldly and said, this person's aura is stable, and the power in his body is not released. Did you see that just now? Every time the maple leaves fell on him, they would fly away on their own. These leaves couldn't land on him at all. And it's the same with those two stunning beauties. The leaves couldn't land on them at all. What does this mean? The retainer was stunned. Yuchi Kai's eyes shone. It means that their bodies are covered with battle armor energy. These three people are all above the Heavenly King level. This is too scary. Maybe they've already stepped into the Saint Realm. My God. The retainer's face instantly turned pale. Although there were many cultivators on the Shattered Cauldron continent, those who could cultivate to the Heavenly King level were basically the masters of the major families and sects, or generals in the army. Although there were countless people who came to the Cloud Ridge in search of treasures, the appearance of three Heavenly Kings at the same time was still a little shocking. Yuchi Kai lived in the Myriad Sword Manor, so his horizons weren't wide. To him, a Heavenly King was already an extremely terrifying existence. However, he didn't know how shocked and horrified he would be if he knew that Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the transformed Tang Xiaoxi were all at the Saint Realm. Rustle, just as Yuchi Kai had said, these fallen leaves danced on the battle armor around Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi. Lin Muyu grabbed the reins, and the warhorse walked through the mountains, causing it to lose its balance between going up and down. She had to hold on to the reins, or she would accidentally fall off the horse's back. She slowly activated her spirit meridian technique, and suddenly, about a dozen or so dense auras appeared up ahead. Lin Muyu couldn't help but have a cold look in her eyes, and she said in a low voice, Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, be careful. It seems that someone is ambushing us. Ambush? Qin Yin was taken aback. Why? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. To us, we're here to search for treasures, but to some vicious mercenaries, we're their treasures. Be careful. Yes. Sure enough, a few sharp arrows whizzed through the wind, heading straight for Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. There was an ambush under those maple leaves, and a dozen mercenaries held longbows in their hands and fired a series of arrows. Unfortunately, the ones they encountered were all saint-level experts. Bang, 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 all the arrows were deflected by the Golden Gourd's walls. Lin Muyu did not even draw her sword. She suddenly spun around and leaped off her warhorse. Her saint's chi whirled, and under the pressure of the Saint Realm, leaves flew up into the sky. Lin Muyu's boots stepped on the fallen leaves as she slowly walked forward. She said indifferently, I have no enmity with you, why did you harm me? The leading wandering mercenary raised his hand and drew the long sword on his back. His eyes were filled with greed and fear, and he smiled sinisterly. You can only blame yourself for riding 3 good horses, and those 2 beautiful girls, I want them. Chapter 459. The pressure of the domain suddenly fell like a mountain, and the dancing maple leaves in the air all fell to the ground under the pressure. A group of wandering mercenaries with swords in their hands couldn't move, and the weaker ones had already knelt down, their faces pale. The mercenary leader didn't know what was happening at all. He raised his sword and threw it, shouting, "What sorcery did you use on us?" Clang! The blade bounced off Lin Muyu's battle armor, and he floated to the ground, stepping on the fallen leaves. Step by step, he walked forward, a calm smile on his face. How many people have you killed with this method? The mercenary leader's face was full of hatred. None of your business. If you want to kill us, then kill us. We're not afraid of death. At this time, an old mercenary beside him whispered with a pale face, "Boss, we've encountered the Saint Realm. This aura is called the Saint Realm pressure. I've seen it in a martial arts manual." What, the Saint Realm? The mercenary leader's face was full of shock. You? Who are you? Lin Muyu didn't speak. Under the spirit pulse technique, she sensed a dense aura on the other side of the mountain. They were extremely fast, and it wasn't the aura of humans. It was the aura of swift wolves, and a pack of at least 30 of them. Qin Yin held the reins and asked, "Brother, are you going to kill them to enforce justice?" "No." Lin Muyu shook her head. "Killing them will dirty my sword." "Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, let's go. Go east, get on the horses. The swift wolves are coming." "Okay." The 3 of them spurred on their horses and galloped away. The group of mercenaries behind them slowly woke up from the suppression of the Saint Realm pressure. The old mercenary's face was livid. He just said that the swift wolves are coming. Let's run. Damn it, why would the swift wolves come here? Bastards. The group of mercenaries cursed one after another, but it was of no use. Amidst the howling of the wolves, a pack of greenish-white swift wolves appeared on the mountain ridge. The leader of the pack sniffed ferociously, and there were 5 golden lines on its forehead. It was a 5,000-year-old swift wolf. The swift wolf reproduced quickly and grew quickly, but a swift wolf with a lifespan of 5,000 years was extremely rare and extremely terrifying. We can't escape. The mercenary leader's face was full of anger. Brothers, we can't escape today. Let's fight with these bastards. We can't feed them for nothing. Let's fight. 3 mercenaries rushed forward with their leader, but more people turned around and ran. In the howling of the wolves, the swift wolves pounced on them like lightning, their screams echoing over the mountains. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi had already run far away. They looked back at the mountain ridge behind them from afar. Perhaps this was the principle of God will punish the wicked. The spirit pulse technique quickly spread out. In this kind of forest where visibility was very low, Lin Muyu's spirit pulse technique was like a highly efficient radar, able to predict the enemy ahead of time. Within a few kilometers, other than some scattered mercenaries, there were also some ferocious spirit beasts, but they couldn't sense the power of the divine weapon. After walking for more than 2 hours, Qin Yin stretched out her hand and pointed into the distance. Look, we found it. On the Yunling Ridge, a huge pit had appeared between the mountain rocks, and there were traces of fire everywhere. It was the place where the divine weapon fell. The radius of the pit was tens of meters, so how strong was the impact to create such a big hole? Using the spirit pulse technique, he sensed that there were no signs of life or spiritual power in the cave. The treasure had long been taken away, but he didn't know if it was still in the Yunling Ridge. There are so many dead bodies over there. Tang Xiaoxi frowned and said. Lin Muyu walked over with her sword in hand. Indeed, there was a group of corpses lying on the ground. Most of the corpses were not whole, as if they had been gnawed on by wild beasts. On the shoulder of one of the corpses, Lin Muyu even saw a copper-purple flower insignia. That was the insignia worn by the Empire's soldiers. He frowned and said, "It seems that the troops stationed in Heaven's Pivot province also came here to search for treasure." "What attacked them?" Qin Yin asked. Looking at the teeth marks, it should be a ferocious tiger-like spirit beast. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "It should be a bloodthirsty tiger." There are also burn marks, and looking at the range of the flames, it should be at least 6,000 years old. These people are really unlucky to have encountered such a strong bloodthirsty tiger. Bloodthirsty tiger, Tang Xiaoxi narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, "Can Mu sense the direction of the bloodthirsty tiger? Since we have lost our direction, let's go and kill this bloodthirsty tiger." "All right." Lin Muyu could faintly sense the aura of an extremely violent spirit beast in the south. She pointed in that direction and said, "It should be over there. The aura is quite violent, so if I'm not mistaken, it should be fighting someone." "All right." The three warhorses galloped forward, their hooves traversing the rocky terrain. Surprisingly, they didn't slow down too much. In the distance, the angry roars of wild beasts could be heard coming from the other side of the hill, and they could even sense the scorching aura of flames. When Lin Muyu arrived at the top of the hill, she was shocked to find a large group of people in the valley up ahead, surrounding a bloodthirsty tiger and attacking it. This group of people were all wearing suits of armor, and their arms were covered in a layer of stone skin. It was clear that they had used the stone skin medicine. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others were all at the Saint Realm, and their suits of battle armor had enshrouded their bodies, so there was no longer much of a need for them to use low-grade stone skin medicines. However, the scenes unfolding before their eyes reminded Lin Muyu of the battle between Hawkeye and the others and the bloodthirsty tiger. Roar! Amidst the roar, the bloodthirsty tiger's sharp claws flew out and tore apart a cultivator's chest armor. A few claws tore open the cultivator's stomach, causing blood to spurt out. This person died a miserable death. Qin Yin took a closer look at the bloodthirsty tiger. There were a total of 8 golden patterns and 9 silver patterns on its head, and she couldn't help but be taken aback. "It's an 8,900-year-old bloodthirsty tiger," she murmured. Lin Muyu nodded. "Yes, it's very powerful. Can this group of people beat them? So many people have died." Tang Xiaoxi looked like she couldn't bear to see them die. The people attacking the bloodthirsty tiger all wore a gray insignia depicting a rock. If she wasn't mistaken, this was the giant rock gate that Yuchi Kai had mentioned. Among the crowd, a middle-aged martial artist in his 40s charged at the bloodthirsty tiger with his bare hands. His fists were full of energy, and his aura swirled around him. His fists seemed to be made of stone, and he landed a heavy punch on the side of the bloodthirsty tiger. "Lie down, you beast!" Bang! The flames on the bloodthirsty tiger's skin dispersed, and with a howl, its body shook violently. Its tail lashed out like lightning. Lin Muyu had already experienced the power of the bloodthirsty tiger's tail. It could break a steel shield, so one could imagine how destructive it was. However, the middle-aged martial artist's body suddenly sank like a mountain, and the battle chi on his left arm rapidly transformed into rock energy. He roared, "Taste my rock armor." Bang! His body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, the bloodthirsty tiger's tail was also repelled. The giant rock gate's martial arts truly lived up to its name. Its defensive power was probably not inferior to Qin Yan's dragon scale armor. Kill! Save the gate master! A group of giant rock sect powerhouses brandished their weapons and slashed at the bloodthirsty tiger. The middle-aged martial artist was probably the giant rock sect leader, Ouyang Qing. He was forced to retreat several steps, his face pale, and his battle armor shattered into pieces. Even though he was a Heavenly King stage powerhouse, he was still no match for an 8,900-year-old spirit beast. Roar! Roar! The bloodthirsty tiger's body had already been pierced by several swords and spears, but its ferocity did not diminish. It shook its head, and the spirit stone in its head emitted energy. A raging flame suddenly erupted in the crowd. Bang! More than a dozen cultivators of the giant rock sect died in the Sea of Fire, and only a few cultivators whose rock energy was strong enough were able to survive. Lin Muyu frowned as she watched the battle in the valley. Her hand was already on the hilt of her sword. Her strength far surpassed the group of people in front of her, and she only needed a single sword strike to end this spirit beast. At this moment, a few giant rock gate disciples suddenly rushed out from the grass, raising their swords and shouting, "Who are you? Please leave. Giant rock gate is hunting here, no one is allowed to enter." Lin Muyu said indifferently, "I just wanted to help so that one of you won't die." "No need." A disciple said with an unruly expression, "The giant rock sect has its own rules and dignity. This vicious beast has killed many of our people, so the giant rock sect must deal with it ourselves. Thank you for your kindness, now, you can leave." "Bastard." Lin Muyu suppressed her anger and said, "Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. I'll just watch from here." "You." At this moment, a beast's roar suddenly came from the south. "What now?" Qin Yin looked towards the southern jungle. Lin Muyu's heart turned cold, and her face turned pale. "Not good, what's wrong?" "A powerful spirit beast is coming." "What spirit beast? How powerful is it?" Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "It's many times stronger than any spirit beast we've ever seen." In the spiritual pulse technique, the spirit beast's aura actually surpassed the saint realm and reached the hierarch level. How old would a spirit beast be to have such an aura? Behind them, the battle between the giant rock gate and the bloodthirsty tiger was still going on. Suddenly, a boom sound came from the southern jungle, and a mushroom cloud soared into the sky, followed by a spray of flames. The jungle several li to the south instantly turned into a sea of fire. In the Sea of Fire, a giant beast at least 10 meters tall trampled the trees, roaring endlessly. It was a ferocious tiger-shaped beast. Its entire body was covered in green fur, and its mouth was filled with fangs. Its 3 tails were like long whips that danced in the air, and the flames around its body soared to the heavens. A single roar from it was enough to make one feel suffocated. This was probably the pressure of a divine-level spiritual beast. It's the divine beast by N. Tang Xiaoxi was experienced and couldn't help but be shocked. Chapter 460. Roar. Bai An's roar reverberated between heaven and earth as it desperately shook its head, as if trying to get rid of something. Faintly, in the flames, one could see that there seemed to be a human lying on top of Bai An's head. That's right, a human was actually attached to Bai An's head, surrounded by blood-red cyclones to resist Bai An's flames. Heavens, Qin Yin opened her small mouth and said, "Who is that, so strong?" Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes and said, "Hide the warhorses and prepare for battle." Hiding the 3 warhorses together in a groove between the rocks, they pulled out their weapons from afar and prepared for battle. Behind them, the people of Giant Rock sect had finally killed the bloodthirsty tiger. It was unknown how many people had died. On the forest path, another group of people charged over. They were the people of Extreme Ice sect, each of them wearing a silver badge on their chest. The leader of the group had white hair and a strong aura. He was Su Yi, the sect leader of Extreme Ice sect, and his cultivation was very close to the Saint Realm. "Sect leader, look, the divine weapon has appeared." A disciple of Ice Severance School reached out his hand and pointed at Bai Wu's head. In the fiery light, the man attached to Bai Wu's head suddenly roared, exerted his strength with both arms, and pulled out a shining long sword from Bai Wu's head. In the magma-like hot blood splashed out, the man quickly retreated with his divine weapon. But Bai Wu was not easy to deal with. It kept waving its sharp claws. Pung! With a heavy blow, the young man and the divine weapon fell into the sea of fire in the forest. Su Yi's eyes were filled with greed as he said, "Disciples of Extreme Ice sect, listen up, follow me to chase after the divine weapon. Go around Bai An's giant beast. This spirit beast is not something a human can defeat." "Yes." The group urged their horses to take a detour. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi stood halfway up the mountain, not in a hurry to fight. Beside them, the people of Giant Rock's sect were constantly injured, but they still desperately chased after the divine weapon, as if they were possessed. Are divine weapons really that important? Lin Muyu frowned. His gaze fell on the spiritual beast Swanmi. As far as his eyes could see, there were bright golden lines on the head of Swanmi. After a careful count, there were a total of 6 golden lines and 4 silver lines. He couldn't help but sweat in his palms. He said nervously and excitedly, "A 400-year-old spiritual beast. Does it count as the best in the continent?" Qin Yi nodded, and there hasn't been such a mythological beast on the continent for at least 1,000 years. Are we going to kill Tao Wu now? No, let's take a look. It's too chaotic. Okay. The forest at the foot of the mountain was indeed chaotic. The people of Extreme Ice sect wanted to go around Baiyan, but Baiyan's murderous nature was aroused. Waving its sharp claws, it continuously smashed the people of Extreme Ice sect into a pile of minced meat. The cultivators in the surrounding forest also seemed to hear Baiyan's voice and came over. More and more people came, and in the blink of an eye, the forest was filled with tens of thousands of cultivators. All of them looked at the scene in front of them as if they were possessed. Whether it was taking the divine weapon or killing Baiyan, they could all be named heroes. Damn it, kill Baiyan first. Su Yi saw that many of the people of Extreme Ice sect had already been killed by Baiyan. With a face full of anger, he pulled out his long sword and jumped off his horse. The long sword was full of fighting spirit light. Suddenly, the surroundings were covered in frost. Su Yi's entire body seemed to be wrapped in ice, and he struck Baiyan's left head heavily. Bang! The sword chi and the cold light hit the lower jaw of the spirit beast together. Suddenly, Baiyan let out a cry and raised its head very high. The spiritual chi on its lower jaw dispersed, and the gang chi completely protected it. It only felt pain, but not injury. It swung its sharp claws and pounced on Su Yi. The wind from the claws swept across. Su Yi saw it clearly. He lightly kicked his feet in the air and suddenly sped up to avoid the attack. Instead, several people behind him were turned into minced meat by the wind from Baiyan's claws. Bastard! Su Yi's face was full of anger. At this time, the people of Giant Rock's sect had arrived. Ouyang Qing gritted his teeth and said, "Once this fierce beast Baiyan is born, it will definitely harm the human world. Sect Master Su Yi, why don't we join hands to kill this fierce beast and do justice for the heavens?" "Okay, Sect Master Ouyang, please be careful." Yes. Not only the Ice Extreme sect and the Giant Rock sect, but also more and more cultivators had gathered and surrounded by arrows were flying everywhere, but they could not cause any damage to this ancient giant beast. On the other side of the forest, the young man with the divine weapon was running towards the Cloud Ridge. He wanted to cross the Cloud Ridge and leave the Heaven Pivot province. Rustle, the figure on the maple leaf swept past. A person flew past like a bolt of lightning and suddenly stopped in front of the young man. He slowly pulled out a golden blade and said with a smile, "You want to take the divine weapon back to the devil race so soon?" The person who came was Lin Muyu. The young man's mouth slightly curved up, and the divine weapon in his hand was extremely bright. He smiled slightly and said, "You are indeed not simple. You are not as stupid as those humans." Lin Muyu looked at him calmly and said, "You are also a 5-star devil ancestor. Tell me, are you one of the 15 elders of the devil race?" The young man was stunned. Who are you? How do you know the 15 elders of the divine race?" One of the 15 elders, Lian Hai, died by my sword." Lin Muyu deliberately provoked. Immediately, the young demon's expression overflowed with killing intent. "You are Lin Muyu? The Lin Muyu who drowned my army?" "That's right. Unless you kill me today, don't even think of taking the divine weapon. Then let's see what you can do." The young man smiled arrogantly. "Don't think that you are so great just because you killed that idiot Lian Hai. You can kill me in your next life." Lin Muyu did not speak. Her figure suddenly moved, and she appeared in front of Ji Luo like lightning. Her sword was wrapped in the divine power of the god-binding chains, and she fiercely attacked. Clang! High-level demons were well-versed in swordsmanship, so Ji Luo naturally could easily block the attack. But the moment the swords collided, a ray of sword chi left the dragon spirit sword and directly attacked Ji Luo's chest, splitting light slash. Ah! Ji Luo was startled for a moment, but she quickly reacted. The Grandmaster demonic energy surged out from her chest, and the revolving force quickly dissipated the power of the light-splitting slash. The sword light followed the rapid rotation of the Grandmaster demonic energy, and with a bang, it chopped down a huge tree not far away. Lin Muyu's attacks were extraordinarily fast. Her sword moved like a shadow, and she attacked dozens of times in a row. But Ji Luo's swordsmanship was indeed much better than Lian Hai's. She either parried or dodged the sharp edge of the dragon spirit sword. Just as she was about to finish her attack, she lightly lifted her sword, and the sword absorption technique lifted the dragon spirit sword into the air. Her battle boots were wrapped in a thick Grandmaster demon power as she kicked. Whoosh! Lin Muyu's kick also came with a powerful force. Bang! The two were forced back several steps. It was clear that after fighting so many powerful demons, Lin Muyu had a general understanding of the demon's swordsmanship. Ji Luo, on the other hand, held the divine weapon in her hand. A trace of surprise flashed across her face. She gritted her teeth and smiled. Looks like I can't win if I don't use my full strength. All right. Lin Muyu smiled and nodded. Behind her, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had also arrived. But it seemed like Lin Muyu didn't want them to help, so they didn't make a move. They were just waiting for an opportunity. Ji Luo didn't seem to be afraid of being surrounded by three powerful experts. Perhaps high-level demons had always been this arrogant, especially top experts like Ji Luo. Crackle, crackle, bolts of lightning appeared in the air and quickly gathered on the divine weapon. Ji Luo sneered. Lightning arts. She infused lightning into the blade, and the lightning shot up into the sky. In terms of strength, this kind of lightning energy was many times stronger than Lin Muyu's sword of lightning. Die. Ji Luo's figure was like lightning. Her speed was not inferior to falling star steps. She swung her sword downwards and shouted, "Have a taste of the power of the heavens." Night had fallen, and the lightning was extremely bright. Lin Muyu's body spun, the brilliant sun battle light madly pouring into the dragon spirit sword. The opponent's weapon was even sharper than the dragon spirit sword and could not be underestimated. The starlight on her wrist flowed into the sword and met the attack head-on, first astral light. Bang! Two powerful forces exploded, causing the surrounding leaves to fly into the air. A streak of starlight and lightning clashed, shooting into the sky with no way out. The explosion was deafening. Ji Luo was forced back several steps, but Lin Muyu was in an even worse state. Some of the lightning energy had flowed into her arm, causing her to feel numb. It was obvious that first astral light had lost in this clash. At the foot of the mountain, the people surrounding by and all looked up at the starlight and lightning shooting into the sky. All of them were dumbfounded. Is this the human world or purgatory? What's happening over there? It was deadly hot, but the energy fluctuations there were also very deadly. Z. 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 The surrounding rocks and ground crackled with intense lightning. Ji Luo's entire being was on full display, and the divine weapon in his hand began to emit a faint whistling sound. As expected of a divine weapon from beyond the heavens, it was actually able to withstand such a powerful attack without self-destructing. When Ji Luo's strength reached its peak, he flew over and unleashed another powerful attack. Rays of starlight converged into a demonic lotus that circled around Lin Muyu's body. The star lotus armor had already been activated, and Lin Muyu did not hold back in the slightest. He poured 100% of his stellar scripture's power into the dragon spirit sword, causing it to tremble. Stardust and rock energy rapidly converged and rushed towards Ji Luo's attack. 5 mountains descent from the heavens. When the two swords collided, the divine weapon in Ji Luo's hand shone even more fiercely, directly suppressing the dragon spirit sword's edge. A vast divine power rushed over, and the biting cold battle light seemed like it could tear through one's skin. Lin Muyu could barely open his eyes as the clothes on his arm were torn to shreds. In a contest of weapons, Lin Muyu's dragon spirit sword had been completely defeated. Bang! The 5 mountains descend from the heavens, transformed into a fiery red energy ball that shot into the sky. The power of the sword was actually deflected into the air by Ji Luo, but Ji Luo had expended a large amount of Grandmaster demonic energy in order to deflect this attack. Before he could catch his breath, he looked up and saw that Lin Muyu's left palm was filled with Xian energy of heaven and earth, and power was rushing towards him from all directions. 5 elements, 8 wastelands, annihilation. Damn it! Ji Luo hurriedly raised his arm and shouted, "Thunder wall." Streaks of lightning converged to form a wall, protecting Ji Luo from harm. Boom! The 5 elements, 8 wastelands, annihilation charged at the thunder wall, and after Lin Muyu finished his attack, a flying dagger appeared in his palm. It was the little magic noise dagger. Lin Muyu! Ji Luo roared from behind the thunder wall. Don't you want the 400-year swan knees spirit stones? Why are you making things difficult for me? Separated by the thunder wall, Lin Muyu's gaze was indifferent. Demons, don't even think of leaving the cloud ridge with this sword. I will not let you use this sword to kill the people of my empire. Ji Luo, you will die here today no matter what. Chapter 461. The divine weapon in Ji Luo's hand glowed brighter and brighter. The almost transparent blade glowed with the light of the myriad of stars, looking somewhat familiar. Could it be a star? A chill passed through Lin Muyu's heart. How was this possible? Wasn't the Sword Elder's star stolen by Luo Lan? How did he fall from the heaven realm? What was going on? Just as Lin Muyu was lost in thought, Ji Luo had already circulated all the demonic power in his body. His entire body was covered in blazing lightning, and a gust of wind forced Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin to take a few steps back. Pa pa. Pa pa. Deep purple lightning continuously flowed from Ji Luo's body into the blade. The star-like divine weapon emitted a sharp sword cry. The body of the sword was magnificent, but it was filled with killing intent. Ji Luo's purple eyes were completely submerged in blood red. The demon cloak behind him fluttered as he laughed loudly. This sword belongs to the god race, even that swan and eye belongs to the demon race. Lin Muyu, you are destined to fail this time, he he he. I haven't used this purple lightning apocalypse for more than 1,000 years, let this move send you to hell. Ji Luo's purple eyes were completely submerged in blood red. The demon cloak behind him fluttered as he laughed loudly. This sword belongs to the god race, even that swan and eye belongs to the demon race. Lin Muyu, you are destined to fail this time, he he he. I haven't used this purple lightning apocalypse for more than 1,000 years. Purple lightning apocalypse? Lin Muyu's brows furrowed tightly. The opponent's move gave off a strong sense of oppression. Even her strongest domain pressure could not withstand it at all. It could be deduced that in terms of martial arts cultivation, this Ji Luo was above her. Moreover, he looked delicate and pretty, but she did not expect him to be more than 1,000 years old. It seemed like the cultivation of the demon race could also preserve one's appearance forever. Ha! With a shout, the 7 glorious stars' transformation slowly condensed. The sky suddenly darkened, and the starlight that filled the sky seemed to be absorbed by Lin Muyu. Even the Tao Wu in the distance turned around to look at Lin Muyu while it was fighting the crowd. With a roar, it continued to swing its huge head to fight the people who were trying to become the warriors of the Tao Wu massacre. Is this the 7 glorious stars' transformation? Ji Luo's face was brimming with battle intent and excitement as he laughed heartily, so it was this move that defeated Marshal Qianfeng. The ultimate technique of the 7 luminaries demon emperor was actually learned by a human. Ha ha ha, what a joke. Come, if you, Lin Muyu, are a legend and hero of humanity, then let me, Ji Luo, end this legend. He waved the long sword in his hand, and an earth-shattering purple lightning struck. The purple lightning formed a huge disc that crushed down, as if it was going to crush Lin Muyu's entire body in an instant. Be careful. Qin Yin's delicate body suddenly trembled. She opened her palms, and the true dragon god binding chains flew up. Her elegant robes fluttered in the wind as she flew close to the ground. She launched a surprise attack with the fourth style of the Dragon Slayer incantation, Golden Dragon Flames, in her palm. At the same time, Tang Xiaoxi also did not hesitate to transform into her nine-tailed fairy fox form. Her 9 flaming tails danced in the air as she charged forward with the fire god's seal in her hand. The seal's light soared into the sky, and it was unknown how much power was hidden in her petite body. Don't come over. Lin Muyu suddenly opened her hand, and flames surged in her palm. The 7 glorious stars transformation that had already been formed instantly dissipated, and was replaced by the technique of using fire to control the sword. The corner of his mouth curved in a smile. In the distance, there was an almost inaudible whistling sound. It was the demon noise saber. What? Ji Luo, who had been concentrating on the purple thunder apocalypse, suddenly trembled. A gust of air attacked him from the void, and he hurriedly used his remaining strength to block it. However, he did not expect that he would not be able to block it at all. The invisible saber pierced through the imprisonment of the Grandmaster demonic energy with a whoosh, aiming directly for his neck. Even though Ji Luo had been through hundreds of battles, he had never seen such a strange attack method. He hurriedly tilted his head backwards in an attempt to dodge this attack. Who would have thought that Lin Muyu would open her palm and lightly clench it? The flying demon noise saber immediately changed its trajectory and flew past Ji Luo's throat with a "pu" sound. Blood splattered as the sharp blade cut open Ji Luo's throat. Blood gushed out, and Ji Luo hurriedly withdrew his arms. The purple thunder apocalypse in the air also dissipated like the 7 glorious stars transformation. Pa! Lin Muyu caught the returning demon noise saber and gently put it back into the saber pouch at her waist. Her eyes were calm as she looked at Ji Luo without saying a word. This demon, whose cultivation was higher than hers, had died humbly under a hidden weapon attack. You! Ji Luo spat out a mouthful of blood as he desperately clutched his neck. Blood seeped through the gaps between his fingers. His voice was somewhat muffled, filled with disbelief and anger. Despicable beast, you actually used a hidden weapon to attack me, you, Lin Muyu said lightly. The demon race schemed to get out of the Heaven's Bridge Gorge and ambushed Winter Frost City without us knowing, killing 100,000 members of my Yangwei Legion. Are you not despicable? You! Ji Luo's eyes were bloodshot as he took a few steps back. He could no longer even hold the sword in his hand. As his life energy drained away, the magic battle chi whirlpool in his energy sea slowly flew up and condensed into a small demon spirit orb. But with a "pa" sound, Ji Luo forcibly grabbed the demon spirit orb that leaked out of his body. His face was twisted and hideous as he laughed. I heard that human cultivators can refine the demon spirit orb of a high-level celestial race and turn their divine power into their own. But I, Ji Luo, will not give my demon spirit orb to you even if I have to destroy it. Ha 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 ha. Ji Luo laughed maniacally as he gathered the last of his strength. The demon spirit orb in his hand crackled with lightning. The lightning flashed at an unprecedented speed. The surrounding air surged, blowing dirt, leaves, and rocks in all directions. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi could barely open their eyes. They could only watch as this high-level demon self-destructed. Wang, at this moment, the biting cold lightning from the demon spirit orb began to devour Ji Luo's body. His clothes, skin, muscles, and everything else turned to ash under the lightning. The hand holding the demon spirit orb also began to crumble. At this moment, several objects hidden in the cloth bag in front of his chest let out a shrill sound. They turned fiery red, as if they were about to explode at any moment. What's that? Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Lin Muyu hurriedly shouted, both of you, get behind me and upgrade your battle armor to its strongest state. The two girls appeared behind Lin Muyu while he held the dragon spirit sword horizontally in front of his chest. The walls of the golden gourd flew up with a hum and expanded, protecting him and the two girls behind him. At the same time, the power of the stars circulated and quickly condensed into the star lotus armor, adding another layer of protection. Just as Lin Muyu finished all this, the thing hidden in Ji Luo's chest suddenly exploded. Boom! The force of the attack was overwhelming. With just one attack, Lin Muyu's gourd wall was shattered into pieces. Following that was the star lotus armor. Amidst the violent impact, the star lotus armor was destroyed like rotten wood. Only the heavens knew what was inside Ji Luo's chest that could cause such a powerful explosion. A huge azure mushroom cloud rose from the mountain, the shockwaves surging in all directions. Lin Muyu bore the brunt of the attack. The dragon spirit's sword in her hand let out an angry roar. The holy beast soul had decided to protect its master. The dragon snake beast soul roared and stood in front of its master to take the brunt of the impact. However, the dragon snake beast soul let out a miserable howl as it was destroyed in another wave of explosion. There was even a loud clang. A terrifying scene unfolded. The dragon spirit sword, a 4th grade holy rank longsword, was actually destroyed, shattering into crystal fragments. However, it was also the dragon spirit sword that allowed Lin Muyu to escape death. With Ji Luo as the core, the shockwave from the explosion struck 3 times in a row, causing a fatal impact to everything within a 50-meter radius. Towering trees were turned to dust, and even rocks were turned to stone dust. The ground was also blasted into a crater several meters deep. Ugh, the blood in Lin Muyu's body churned. She finally couldn't help but kneel on the ground and spit out a mouthful of blood. You! Mu! Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi supported her from both sides. I'm fine, Lin Muyu shook her head, desperately using her battle qi to stabilize the surging blood energy in her body. Help me over, I want to see just what kind of thing could cause such an explosion. Even Ji Luo shouldn't have this kind of ability. Okay. The two girls supported Lin Muyu and walked over. They stepped into the deep crater, only to find that Ji Luo's body had already been reduced to ashes. The divine weapon lay quietly on the ground, undamaged. There were words engraved on the blade, Xing Chen. It was written in clerical script, but it seemed to be slightly different from the sword elder's Xing Chen sword. Lin Muyu gently lowered her body and grasped the hilt of the Xing Chen sword. Immediately, a familiar aura flowed into her body and seemed to form a sound in her high. Her knees buckled and she knelt in front of the Xing Chen sword. Tears flowed from her eyes and she began to cry bitterly. This is... Qin Yin said softly. Lin Muyu's tears spilled into the soil. She closed her eyes and sobbed in a low voice. This group of bastards, they recast the Xing Chen sword and refined the sword elder's soul into the sword spirit. Bastards, bastards, Tang Xiaoxi's body trembled. She also knew about the sword elder and walked forward. Her small hand supported Lin Muyu's shoulder and comforted, Mu, you killed Ji Luo and took revenge for the sword elder. No. Lin Muyu's eyes were unprecedentedly fierce. She said sternly, I will definitely investigate this. No matter who recast this sword, I will not let them reincarnate. At this time, Qin Yin found a small piece of something in the ruins of the pit. She raised her hand and said, look at this. Lin Muyu calmed her chaotic emotions and walked forward to take a look. She found that Qin Yin was holding a round ornament that seemed very familiar. What is this? I remember this. Tang Xiaoxi reached into her bosom and took out a crystal coin. It glowed faintly under the moonlight. It was a magic crystal coin of the demon race. This round steel ornament was the ornament around the magic crystal coin. Lin Muyu took the coin and carefully felt it in her hand. She said, that's right, it was this thing that caused the explosion, magic crystal. Qin Yin's mouth opened and closed. She murmured, the explosive power of a magic crystal is so terrifying. Chapter 462. Holding the star sword, a faint echo came from the sword. It seemed that the sword elder's spirit had recognized Lin Muyu. However, he could not speak, and would never speak. Holding the sword tightly in her arms, Lin Muyu murmured with tears in her eyes, "Sword elder, I will avenge you. In the meantime, fight side by side with me." As she spoke, she put the star sword back into its scabbard. It actually fit perfectly with the dragon spirit sword scabbard. Fortunately, the dragon spirit sword had been destroyed, and Lin Muyu had an even more powerful sword. Lulu's voice came from Hi, brother, according to my estimation, this star sword was recast with the spiritual power of the stars in the myriad world. With the addition of the sword elder's unyielding spirit, it has broken through the saint rank and reached the level of a demigod weapon. However, the sharpest weapon in the Shattered Cauldron realm is the first rank of the saint rank. There is no such thing as a demigod weapon, so there is no way to specifically classify the star sword. Then don't classify it. Lin Muyu smiled sadly and said, "Sometimes, the rank is not important." Lulu was just an intelligent AI, and did not understand the emotional changes of Lin Muyu. She said, "Okay, brother, if you need Lulu, just call me." At this moment, in the night, a roar came from the west of the cloud ridge. At the same time, through the spiritual pulse technique, one could feel a tyrannical aura rapidly approaching. This aura was very familiar. Lin Muyu could not help but sharpen her eyes and said, "Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, the demon race is here. It's the Armor Demon army." Armor Demon? Qin Yin was stunned. Why would the Armor Demon come to the Heaven's Pivot Province? It's hard to say. Tang Xiaoxi said, the Heaven's Pivot Province and the southern border of the Tongtian Province are only separated by a cloud ridge. Although most of the cloud ridge is a steep cliff, there are still some small paths. At least it is not difficult for small groups of armor demons to come here. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded, about 700 or 800 armor demons are coming. They must be coming for the star sword and Tao Wu. Let's hide first. My chi was seriously damaged just now, so I can't fight the demon race head-on. Well, I'll carry you. Qin Yin wrapped Lin Muyu's arms around her slender, snow-white neck and jumped dozens of meters away. Lin Muyu gave a wry smile and hugged Qin Yin tightly in her arms. Under the moonlight, feeling Lin Muyu's movement, Qin Yin could not help blushing and blushing. After a few more ups and downs, she took Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi to hide behind a shrub. Behind them was a steep cliff. Even if the demon race came, they would not notice them. Sitting quietly behind the bushes, Lin Muyu had an incomparably wide field of vision. She was constantly healing her internal injuries with her combat energy circulation while staring at the battlefield in the distance. Although this antiquity spiritual beast was covered in wounds, it was not dead yet. The people of Ice Extreme Sect and Giant Rock Sect were still fighting bitterly. Moreover, they were not the only ones. The Pavilion of Chivalry from the South Ridge had also made a move. Approximately 1,000 people from the Pavilion of Chivalry were lying dormant in the southern part of the forest. Not only that, there was also an army. That's right, it was the Imperial Army. There were about 2,000 of them, and they all wore the purple Yinghua emblem. They were from the inner Qi County of Heaven's Pivot Province. The leader was a deputy Chiliarch. He held a long saber in his hand and led his men to hide in the forest. Looking at the raging flames and the battlefield in the forest from afar, he could not help but sneer, these cultivators really don't want to live. They even dared to challenge such a terrifying spiritual beast. Beside him, a counselor with a mustache said with a smile, "General Yuan, we have 2,000 people here this time, plus 2 arrow boxes and steel arrows tempered with white diamond that were secretly transported from Lanyan City. We don't have to rush. As long as we wait for these practitioners to die, we can kill this huge beast with 1 round of arrows from the arrow boxes. At that time, a 400-year-old Tao Wu, as long as we bring its head to Lanyan City to ask for a reward, it will be enough for a general to be promoted by 3 levels and become a national general. Maybe we can even become a commander." The lieutenant general could not help but smile, his eyes full of pride. He said, "Don't worry, Counselor Zhou. If I, Yuan Zhu, can become a national general, I will definitely recommend you to be a military counselor of Zhe Tian Palace and become a popular man around His Highness. Then, thank you very much for your kindness, General Yuan." In a short period of time, more than 20,000 people had hidden in this forest. They couldn't help but sigh with emotion. The charm of the stellar sword had actually reached such a level. Now that the stellar sword had disappeared from everyone's sight, it seemed that everyone could only lock their target on the ancient vicious beast Swan and I. Everyone wanted to plunder the Swan Knee's spirit stones. Everyone wanted to obtain even an inch of Swan Knee's fur. That would be enough for them to show off to their descendants for a lifetime. Moreover, the Empire revered martial arts. With the spirit stones of a 400-year-old Swan and I, they could indeed exchange not only for fame and fortune, but also for a lifetime of glory. Behind the bushes, Qin Yin widely opened her beautiful eyes and said, "There's an army of the Empire over there. I don't know whose army they are. Should we inform them that the demons are coming? It's too late." Lin Muyu pointed at the dark shadows running across the mountain under the starlight and said, "If I'm right, the target of these armor demons is Tao Wu Star's sword. It's meaningless for them to kill 1 or 2,000 more soldiers of the Empire. It seems that the demons have arranged a lot of spies in Heaven's Pivot Province. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sent the Armor Demon Legion here so quickly. Then what should we do now?" Qin Yin asked worriedly. "Don't worry. The officers of the Empire are not fools," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. "As long as they are not fools, they will wait until Tao Wu falls down. That's enough for them to escape." "Yes." Lin Muyu looked at the battle in the distance and said, "The people of the chivalry school are also here. They're all Qin Yi's men from Lingnan. I don't know what they're planning. If Tao Wu really falls down, Shao Yin will kill our way there and snatch Tao Wu's spiritual stones from the chivalry school. By the way, apart from spiritual stones, what else is valuable on Tao Wu?" Qin Yin pouted. "You're still thinking about money." Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but smile. She patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, "Mu, I told you to read more, but you just wouldn't listen. It's obvious that you didn't carefully study Chu's Book of 10,000 Beasts when you were training with him. The Book of 10,000 Beasts clearly recorded that Tao Wu's entire body is a treasure. Tao Wu's horn, when ground into powder, is an excellent healing medicine. Its fur is hard and resistant to water and fire, making it a treasure for making leather armors. Tao Wu's bones can also be used as medicine. In addition, Tao Wu's meat contains excellent spiritual energy. Practitioners who eat Tao Wu's meat can improve their cultivation. Also, Tao Wu's tail is said to be condensed from the heavenly realm's divine metal. For someone like you who knows how to forge weapons, this kind of divine metal should be a dream." "I see," Lin Muyu smiled. "If that's the case, then we're determined to get this by then. You too can eat the meat, but the divine metal in its tail is mine." Qin Yin smiled with her dimples. "Tao Wu's body is so huge, its meat is enough for many people to eat. Shao Shi and I can't finish it. And, be careful, the demons are about to enter the battlefield." Yes, Lin Muyu tried his best to circulate his energy to calm the surging blood in his body. He did not want to watch the human cultivators around by and being slaughtered like this. Roar, 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 the roars of the armor demons mixed with the roars of Lao Ai, but the practitioners around Lao Ai didn't notice it at all. Only when an armor demon's spear pierced through the chest of a hall leader with a puff sound did they realize it. "What's that?" The leader of Giant Rock sect, Ouyang Qin, looked angrily at the black mass of things behind him, but the other party didn't answer him. Instead, they rushed past him while roaring. The pitiful disciples of Giant Rock's sect were massacred in the blink of an eye. Ouyang Qin roared and activated his rock strength. After killing 3 armor demons, he was hit by a heavy hammer and fell into the messy grass, spitting blood. "The demons are here! The demons are here!" No one knew who shouted, but the surrounding cultivators all panicked. No one was stupid, and no one was willing to deal with Tao Wu at this time. One by one, they turned around and ran. Tao Wu roared angrily, and a huge flaming palm fell into the group of armor demons, directly trampling several armor demons to death. Another sharp claw swept out, and 2 armor demons were smashed into pieces. Even the powerful demons seemed so humble in front of an ancient spiritual beast. Thus, Tao Wu wantonly slaughtered without distinguishing between friend and foe, while the demons chased after the cultivators. If there were no surprises, this group of armor demons was summoned by Ji Luo. Unfortunately, before the armor demons arrived, Ji Luo was defeated by Lin Muyu and self-destructed. As a result, this group of armor demons was like a dragon without a leader, and with their low intelligence, they became the shit-stirrers of this forest. However, this also made Lin Muyu feel relieved. As long as the number of armor demons was exhausted, then they only needed to be careful when dealing with the human cultivators. No one knew how terrifying the human heart was. Perhaps some people would not hesitate to commit regicide for the sake of a Tao Wu's spiritual stone. After all, in this world, the heavens and earth were important, the king was important, and so was their conscience. But none of them were as important as one's own wealth. If one did not look out for oneself, heaven and earth would destroy them. No matter which plane one was in, this was an iron law. Lao Ai's body was already covered in flames, burning wherever he went. It was late autumn, so the withered leaves in the forest were ignited, burning all over the mountains and plains. Many people with low cultivation bases ran away. In fact, their own lives were more important. Don't run, get into formation. Su Yi, the head of the Ice Extreme sect, shouted, holding his blood-stained sword, "Ice spiral formation, block these demons for me. Kill them all, damn it. I don't believe that these lowly beasts dare to abuse their power in the territory of our empire." A group of Ice Extreme sect disciples held their swords in front of their chests, forming a formation. Streams of ice energy enshrouded the formation. Lin Muyu could clearly feel that the so-called ice spiral array was a kind of array that allowed energy to be exchanged and complemented each other. Moreover, these people all cultivated the law of ice. Hence, under the principle that 11 was greater than 2, this array was able to gather all the energy together, making it extremely powerful. "Draw your swords," Su Yi shouted. The 3 disciples in front of the array formation waved their swords together. Hua hua hua, 3 mysterious ice sword chis sprayed out, directly bombarding dozens of armor demons into ice cubes, causing them to shatter and die. Powerful. If all human cultivators could serve the empire, then the empire's army would probably defeat the demon race soon. As Lin Muyu thought to herself, she could not help but shake her head with a self-deprecating smile. These cultivators claimed to be otherworldly experts, and their only goal was to cultivate and ascend to godhood. Why would they be willing to join the Empire's army and participate in this secular war? The aura in his body gradually calmed down. He raised his hand to grasp the star, slowly pulled it out, and said, "Shao Yin, Shao Shi, let's get ready." Tao Wu has killed so many people, his spiritual power is almost exhausted. Yes. The 2 beauties nodded obediently. Chapter 463. Clang. The crisp sound of a sword being unsheathed rang out from the depths of the forest. An old man gently lifted the hood of his cloak that covered his face. His aged face was covered with scars that extended all the way to his neck. He narrowed his eyes, which shone with a shrewd light. He said calmly, "House of Chivalry, get ready to act. Kill Lao Ai before the Imperial Army does. Bring Lao Ai back to Iha country and hand him over to the Commander-in-Chief. Every one of you will receive a lifetime of glory." A group of chivalry rangers in black robes lifted their cloaks and unsheathed their swords. The badges on their chests shone brightly under the moonlight. There were gold, silver, and bronze badges, but most of them were iron and white. The Jianghu Rangers had mobilized a total of 12 people and 74 silver supremes. The long-bearded old man wore the badge of a Grand Tour envoy. He was the leader of this group of chivalry rangers. Grand Tour envoy Jianghu. Jin Zun, who was holding a sharp broadsword, frowned and said, Tao Wu is still able to fight. Are we really going to act now? In my opinion, why don't we wait until the Imperial Army makes their move? No. Jianghu shook his head slowly and said, there is no time to wait. If the Imperial Army gets Tao Wu's spirit stone first, it will be too difficult for us to take it back from thousands of soldiers. Also, the divine weapon has been stolen by a mysterious person. We can only fight for this divine beast spirit stone. Otherwise, how are we going to explain it to His Highness Qin Huan? Yes, I have no objections. Zhang He raised his head, his eyes filled with the desire to fight. This 71-year-old old general's face was already pale, but as the Grand Tour envoy of the Pavilion of Chivalry in the Lincoln province, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and seize this very important spirit stone for the Iha country. Perhaps a 400-year-old spirit stone from a mythological beast would be able to make Luo Lan agree to help the Iha country again? Drops of rain fell on the armor of the soldiers in the forest. Yuan Zhu's eagle eyes were fixed on the movements in the forest in the distance. He gritted his teeth and said, that old fox Zhang He has made his move. Brothers, get ready to go. Take up a spear and shield formation and push forward. The motley crew of the Chivalry Pavilion is no match for the Imperial Army. Yes. The densely packed Imperial soldiers raised their shields in front of their chests and hid their faces behind the shields as they pushed forward. They were well trained, and the military strength of the border troops was indeed well deserved. Russell, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi rushed down from the mountain range with her black combat boots stepping on the dewy weeds. She rushed down from the mountain range with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi in tow. In front of them, Tao Wu was still wreaking havoc, spewing flames into the crowd. At the same time, it raised its head and let out an angry roar. Under the illumination of the flames, Tao Wu was covered in wounds after killing thousands of human cultivators. Its fur was densely covered in arrows and bullet holes, and blood flowed endlessly. All of a sudden, Tao Wu's front claws swept out like lightning and tore 3 disciples of the Ice Extreme sect to pieces with a bang. Streams of blood-red light swept out and shattered the bodies of dozens of people behind them. It was an irresistible realm attack. Most of the disciples of the Ice Extreme sect were in the human realm or earth realm, so they could not resist it at all. Block it for me. Su Yi spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. With his cultivation, he could not compete with Tao Wu at all. He could not even block its attack. He could only ask for help and shouted, Brother Ouyang, it's up to you now. Dozens of meters away, Ouyang Qing, the leader of the giant rock sect, punched Tao Wu's abdomen with his iron fists. His body was in the air, and waves of rock energy surged. In terms of cultivation, he might be above Su Yi. However, the moment Ouyang Qing landed on the ground, he suddenly felt an awe-inspiring aura fall on his head. When he looked up, he only saw a giant palm falling from the sky. It was Tao Wu's attack. Ah! After a scream, Ouyang Qing was smashed into meat paste by Tao Wu's palm. A blood-red vortex surged out from where he stood, forcing the people of the giant rock sect to retreat again and again. It turned out that the number of cultivators was not an absolute advantage. Nearly 10,000 cultivators surrounded Tao Wu and fought in a chaotic battle, but they ended up in a tragic end. Nearly half of them were killed. That beast, Su Yi's face turned pale. We can't hold on anymore. Retreat, all disciples of the Ice Extreme sect, follow me and retreat. Yes, sect leader. Almost everyone's faces were stained with blood. At this moment, under the moonlight, 3 figures flew over. They were Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi. Looking up at Tao Wu's giant body, Lin Muyu felt the terror of a divine beast's power for the first time. She could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Raising her hand, she pulled out the star sword on her back and infused it with battle energy. The star sword suddenly shone brightly. The sword light shone brightly, reflecting off Lin Muyu's star god binding chains. Su Yi saw everything clearly. His eyes fell on the star sword. He narrowed his eyes and asked, "Little girl, Who are you? How did you get this divine weapon? Lin Muyu still looked up at the divine beast Tao Wu and said, What, you still want to snatch the divine weapon from me at this time? You, Su Yi's voice turned cold. Looking at your young age, with your cultivation, you are no match for Tao Wu. Run for your life. No, I want to try. Lin Muyu let out a low roar. Suddenly, her body was shrouded in brilliant battle energy. 9 god-binding chains circled around her. The majestic and inviolable aura stunned everyone. In the next moment, Lin Muyu had already dashed out. Her body turned into a stream of light and rushed towards Tao Wu's wounded body. She raised the star sword and leaped nearly 20 meters into the air. Taking advantage of the momentum, she slashed the divine beast's neck, first appearance of stars. Bang! With a loud bang, the star sword was extremely sharp. It cut through Tao Wu's fur and tore open a 1-meter-long wound. However, it did not seem to hurt its throat. Lin Muyu's body was in the air. Suddenly, she raised her palm towards the ground. The golden gourd vines quickly flew up. Using the flexibility of the gourd vines, Lin Muyu stopped in the air for a short while. Her right hand gripped the longsword tightly and suddenly slashed several times. Tao Wu's blood gushed out and quickly dyed Lin Muyu's robe red. Su Yi was dumbfounded. How could he have imagined that this young man could be so powerful? Roar! After receiving such a heavy blow, Tao Wu let out a furious roar. He crossed his palms and swept them horizontally, sending a domineering attack straight towards Lin Muyu's body. 7 luminaries holy gourd. The golden gourd's wall suddenly crossed in front of Lin Muyu's chest, and the star lotus armor wrapped around Lin Muyu's body. Bang! Under this bloody blow, Lin Muyu felt as if her body was about to be torn apart. Her whole body was knocked back dozens of meters by Tao Wu's divine power. She fell to the ground in a rather embarrassing manner and spat out a mouthful of blood. A divine beast with a lifespan of more than 20,000 years was indeed not something an ordinary person could fight alone. On the other side, a golden light shone brightly. Qin Yin unsheathed her Zine sword, and with the god-binding chains circling around her, she dashed straight towards Tao Wu. Tang Xiaoxi also transformed into a 9-tailed fairy fox. 9 beautiful fiery tails danced behind her. She stepped on the void and rushed straight towards Tao Wu's head. Suddenly, she put her palms together and stopped in the air. Her beautiful eyes were filled with a mesmerizing light. A golden light flashed in her eyes, and suddenly, beams of golden light shot down from the sky and landed on Tao Wu's body, God's seal. Boom, 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 the God seal, which was full of destructive power, smashed on Tao Wu's back again and again. The divine beast howled in pain. It could barely stand with its 4 claws, and its body was on the verge of collapsing. In terms of the destructive power of martial arts, it seemed that Tang Xiaoxi's God's seal was completely above the star arts and the dragon slayer arts. Puff! The Zine sword suddenly pierced into Tao Wu's ribs. The golden light of the god-binding chains faintly shone out from Tao Wu's body. Qin Yin stepped on Tao Wu's fur and slashed down with the Zine sword. She forcefully tore open a large hole in Tao Wu's ribs, and one could almost see the divine beast's internal organs. Roar, roar, under the double pain, Tao Wu roared incessantly. A blood-red light shot up into the sky, as if it was tearing the night apart. Then, beams of golden light shot down, and time seemed to stop. Not good. Lin Muyu shouted, "Be careful, this is the power of a domain." Thousands of rays of light pierced through the clouds and fell down, shining on Lin Muyu and the others. It also shone on the House of Chivalry and the Imperial Army. The entire forest was covered by Tao Wu's power, absolute domain. Only a divine beast could use this power, absolute domain. Everyone in the forest slowed down. Zhang He and the rest of the House of Chivalry members were moving at a slower pace, while Yuan Zhu and the rest who were carrying their shields were moving at a slower pace. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi landed on the ground one after another, their bodies swaying slightly, and they could not move. An invisible pressure descended from the sky, agitating the blood and qi in Lin Muyu's body. In an instant, Lin Muyu felt as if the energy in her qi sea was about to explode. The pressure of an absolute dominion far surpassed that of a Saint Realm expert. Use the pressure of the sacred domain to resist. Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly said. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin raised their battle qi together, almost betting their entire life's worth of cultivation on this moment. Not far away, the people from the Giant Rock sect and Ice Extreme sect suddenly exploded. That's right, the blood qi of these people were all suppressed to the head by the power of the absolute domain. Then, from the head, they began to explode, dying a horrible death. Pu, piu, piu, streams of blood splattered in the forest, as if flowers of death were blooming in a miserable manner. Tang Xiaoxi's face turned red from the surging blood qi, and her body trembled slightly. She used all of her cultivation to resist the pressure of the absolute domain, and the fire fox on her shoulder also let out a jia jia sound. Just when Tang Xiaoxi was about to be unable to resist the absolute domain, the fire fox's tail suddenly exploded with a peng sound, and actually gave birth to another tail. A two-tailed fire fox, just as Qin Han had said. Woo, woo, Qin Yin's face turned red, and her pair of beautiful eyes were filled with unwillingness. The blood in her body began to boil violently. The blood of the true dragon, the bloodline of the Qin clan. 9 true dragon god-binding chains madly danced around her body, letting out bursts of dragon roars. The speed of the chains became faster and faster, actually forming a powerful storm. Peng! After Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yin also broke free from the suppression of the absolute domain. The two girls looked at Lin Muyu together. Chapter 464. Bang! The god-binding chains in front of Lin Muyu suddenly exploded. In a desperate situation, the god-binding chains self-destructed in order to protect its owner. The explosion of the first god-binding shackles caused the surrounding grass and stones to fly into the air. Immediately after, the second god-binding shackles exploded. One after another, all 9 god-binding shackles exploded. Qin Yin stood there in a daze, unable to help. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were also filled with tears as she watched Lin Muyu lose the god-binding chains that she had worked so hard to obtain. However, the sharp sword was enshrouded in golden starlight. Lin Muyu slowly raised his head and looked at Bai An fiercely. Bai An's brown eyes stared back at him mercilessly as if mocking him. Ha! With a shout, Lin Muyu raised the star sword horizontally. The tip of the sword seemed to be pointing in a certain direction. The golden starlight shards that filled the forest gathered together. Those were the shattered god-binding chains. In the blink of an eye, the shards of the god-binding chains attracted each other, forming ancient runes that floated in the air. In less than 10 seconds, the golden ancient runes gathered together, forming a giant sword of light that was at least 20 meters long in the direction the stars were pointing at. In the next moment, the walls of the gourd around Lin Muyu quickly disintegrated and turned into golden armor that attached to the sword. Golden vines extended from the handle of the sword and wrapped around Lin Muyu's hand. Martial Soul Fusion, success. This sword-type martial soul hovered around the starlight sword. It was a new martial soul, one that had never existed in this world. The fusion of the 7 luminaries' holy gourd and the starlight god-binding chains. Absolute power flowed from her martial soul into her arm, and Lin Muyu's heart instantly lightened up. With just a light breath, she broke free from Tao Wu's absolute domain. Holding the giant sword in her hand, she stepped into the void and soared into the sky. Her face was filled with anger, and she said, "You killed so many humans, it's worth it even if you die." The 20-meter-long longsword martial spirit descended from the sky, and with a puchi sound, regardless of whether the Tao Wu was willing or not, it forcibly chopped off its huge head. Bang! Blood gushed out. Bai An's protective upstanding qi couldn't withstand a single blow from Lin Muyu's martial soul fusion. Holding the sword martial soul in her hand, Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She was shocked. So powerful, the martial soul fusion was really powerful. It was far stronger than the 7 luminaries' holy gourd's 11. This 11 was not 2, it was at least 5 times stronger. Under the control of Lin Muyu's mind, her martial soul slowly shrank until it was 2 to 3 times the size of her stellar sword. Then, she could no longer shrink it any further. Lin Muyu leaped up, and with a flash of her sword, she cut open Bai An's skull. She took out a scorching 400-year-old Bai An spirit stone and stuffed it into her cosmos sack. Then, she smiled at the 2 astonished girls and asked, "Little Een, little Shi, what happened to you two?" Qin Een stared at the martial soul hovering around Lin Muyu's sword and said, "This martial soul is so powerful." Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said, "It is indeed very powerful. This should be a new martial soul that isn't recorded in the martial soul law of the sanctum, right? Mu Mu, quickly give this new martial soul a name." Name? Lin Muyu raised her hand to look at the martial soul and said, "Then, let's call it Big Treasure Sword." Big Treasure Sword? Qin Een giggled and said, "It sounds a little strange." "It's alright, it's more appropriate." At this time, Lin Muyu suddenly felt a sense of emptiness in her soul. She quickly dispersed the Big Treasure Sword martial soul and returned to the 7 luminaries holy gourd and the Big Treasure Sword martial soul. Only then did the emptiness disappear. It seemed like Qin Han was right. Martial soul fusion relied heavily on the soul. An ordinary person's soul couldn't provide spiritual energy for a long time. Shoo, he heaved a sigh of relief and looked at the corpses and bodies scattered everywhere in the forest. Apart from himself, Qin Een, and Tang Xiaoxi, no one else was spared. They had all died under Lao Ai's absolute domain. He couldn't help but sigh with emotion and said with a smile, "Everyone came here for the divine weapon, but unexpectedly, a divine beast appeared. In the end, almost everyone died here." Qin Een giggled and said, "Why are you still sighing? It's almost time to refine Tao Wu's beast spirit. You are already at the peak of the first heaven of the Saint Realm. Tao Wu's powerful beast spirit will definitely help you break through and step into the Holy King realm." And without hesitation, Lin Muyu stabbed the star into the soil in front of her. Holding the sword hilt with both hands, the crafting cauldron flew out in the form of energy, sucking in all the wild beasts around Bai An's head and slowly refining it. Woo! The violent spiritual power almost instantly overwhelmed Lin Muyu's body. After all, it was a spirit beast with a lifespan of more than 20,000 years. The enormous spiritual power was not something that ordinary people's Qi Si and Yi Si could bear. Fortunately, Lin Muyu had the help of the crafting cauldron, so he wouldn't be devoured by Tao Wu's beast spirit. Strands of fiery red beast spirit were refined in the crafting cauldron like ribbons, then seeped into Lin Muyu's Qi Si and Yi Si like a trickle, becoming a part of his body for him to use. This process was very long. Lin Muyu stood there, his body motionless. His expression was uncertain, sometimes painful, sometimes happy, and sometimes tormented. Qin Een worriedly held the purpling sword and stood by his side, guarding him like a goddess of war. Tang Xiaoxi led a few warhorses back and patrolled the surroundings, driving away those who tried to get close. After nearly 2 hours of refining, and after 6 consecutive backlashes from Tao Wu's beast spirit, Lin Muyu finally refined part of the spirit core. Rustle, amidst the almost inaudible sound, Tao Wu's spirit core turned into strands of fiery red spiritual power and seeped into the god-binding chains and 7 luminaries' holy gourd. The 2 martial souls greedily absorbed it and immediately obtained 2 of Tao Wu's abilities, Deterrence, which was absorbed by the god-binding chains. The Dragon Blood Battle Shield, which was absorbed by the 7 luminaries' holy gourd, greatly increased its defense. Lin Muyu summoned the 7 luminaries' holy gourd excitedly. With a soft chant in her heart, the walls of the gourd quickly turned into a huge golden shield on her arm. There were layers of tortoiseshell and dragon patterns on the shield. This was the 10th ability of the 7 luminaries' holy gourd, the Dragon Blood Battle Shield. It was almost a new ability of the god-binding chains. It could intimidate the opponent's soul during an attack, which was equivalent to directly attacking the opponent's soul. For those with weaker souls, it was absolutely fatal. Lin Muyu would have to verify this in future battles. In the air, strands of Tao Wu's beast spirit were dispersing. Lin Muyu secretly sighed. Her cultivation was limited, so she couldn't completely refine Tao Wu's beast spirit for the time being. Even after 4 hours, she had only refined a third of it. Most of it had already dissipated. However, it was actually not easy for a mortal to refine so much of it. At this time, the sky was already slightly brightening. Lin Muyu felt refreshed all over. The fighting energy circulating in her body had never been stronger before. This could only mean one thing: she had stepped into the second sky of the Saint Realm, the Holy King Realm. The Holy King Realm was an extremely rare existence even in the entire continent. The Holy King Realm was divided into 3 stages: the Holy Grandmaster Realm, the Holy Relic Realm, and the Saint Origin Realm. Each stage was further divided into 4 stages: Initial Stage, Advanced Stage, and Peak Stage. Above that was the Saint Heaven Realm, the 3rd sky of the Saint Realm. In other words, Lin Muyu's cultivation was still 3 major stages and 12 minor stages away from Chu Chu's. He clenched his fist and activated his fighting energy. In an instant, a vigorous crimson fighting energy surrounded his fist. The King Fighting Flame was the unique ability of the Holy King Realm. The King Fighting Flame was many times stronger than the brilliant Sun Fighting Light. On the side, Qin Yin smiled sweetly and said, "Congratulations, you, for stepping into the Holy King Realm." Tang Xiaoxi also rode her horse over and said with a smile, "At this moment, our Mumu has finally surpassed Feng Jixing and Xiang Yu in terms of cultivation for the first time. This is worthy of celebration. When this news spreads back to Lanyan City, it will definitely cause great waves. You are the youngest person in the empire who possesses the King's Fighting Flame. Is that so? The first?" Lin Muyu touched her nose and smiled awkwardly. "Does that mean I can raise my salary?" "No way." Qin Yin smiled and said firmly, "You don't lack money. Why do you need so many Jin Yin coins?" Tang Xiaoxi said seriously, "There are still many cultivators coming from all directions. Although I have driven away many of them, the number of people is still increasing. We should leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, they will definitely tease Xiaoyin when they come here." "How dare they?" The King Fighting Flame on Lin Muyu's fist became stronger. Qin Yin burst into laughter. She held his wrist and said, "Hurry up and take a look at Lao Ai's corpse. If there's anything that we can take with us, we'll take it with us. If we can't, we'll just treat it as a gift to the cultivators who came later." "Okay." The Tao Wu's skin was very hard and could be made into leather armor. Therefore, Lin Muyu cut a lot of it and threw all of it into her Heaven-Earth pouch and Qin Yin's and Tang Xiaoxi's interspatial pouch. Besides, the Tao Wu's meat contained very rich spiritual power. If a cultivator ate it, it could speed up their cultivation. It was definitely a treasure for a cultivator. Therefore, Lin Muyu cut a lot of Tao Wu's meat and put it into her Heaven-Earth pouch. When the 3 interspatial pouches were almost full, there was only about half of the Tao Wu's meat left. Lin Muyu stepped on the huge skeleton and arrived at Swan Ni's spine. She abruptly raised her hand and grabbed Swan Ni's spine. Then, with a low grunt, her king's combat flame danced around her body. With her immense strength, she directly pulled Swan Ni's spine out. As expected, the bone had a metallic luster. It was a good material for forging weapons. She swung the star and cut the spine into 7 or 8 pieces. Then, she distributed the pieces to Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. She only stopped when there was not even an apple in their space bags. In the morning mist, the sound of hooves came from afar. Someone was coming. Chapter 465. The sound of horses' hooves broke the silence of the morning. A group of men clad in armor and carrying banners galloped over on their horses and quickly spread out. Many of them pulled out their weapons and surrounded Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi in the middle. Their faces were filled with malicious intent. When they saw the beautiful faces of the two beautiful girls, their greed and lust grew even stronger. Who are these people? Tang Xiaoxi asked with a frown. Qin Yin quietly placed her palm on her sword and said, mercenaries. That's right, they were all mercenaries. There were at least 100 of them, and judging from the sound of hooves, there seemed to be more. Lin Muyu mounted the horse and tied the Qingkuan pouch to her waist. She raised her hand and sheathed star. She looked at the mercenaries around her coldly and stood still, waiting for an opportunity to strike. At this moment, a mercenary with a face full of beard rode forward. He glanced at Tao Wu's huge body, then looked at Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi's attire and injuries. He couldn't help but smile. It seems that the divine beast Tao Wu died in your hands. Yes, make way. We're leaving, Qin Yin said with a cold face. You want to leave just like that? The mercenary leader couldn't help but laugh. Since you're the ones who killed Tao Wu, you must have some skills. Do you mind showing my brothers what you've got? Lin Muyu immediately knew that these mercenaries couldn't sense the power of a sanctuary expert, so they didn't know if the three of them really had the ability to kill Tao Wu, or if they had killed Tao Wu through trickery. This person was just testing them. If they really didn't have the ability to kill Tao Wu, then they would attack immediately. Clang! Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out her sword and looked at the group of people around her coldly. The group of mercenaries also pulled out their swords and bows. The atmosphere was tense. This sword. The bearded mercenary leader's eyes turned cold. Kid, this sword is the divine weapon that fell into the human world, isn't it? Yes. Lin Muyu didn't deny it. Very good, very good. The bearded man said twice and shouted, Captain, the divine weapon is here. Another group of mercenaries came from the forest behind. The leader seemed to be a little familiar. He was about 40 years old, had a fierce face, and had a vicious look in his eyes. He held the reins tightly with both hands and rode his horse under the protection of dozens of people. He stared at Lin Muyu and sneered. Tell me, how did you get this sword? So many cultivators have died here, and even many people from the Empire's army have died. How did a young boy like you get this sword? Did you take advantage of the fact that everyone died together with Tao Wu to get this sword? Tang Xiaoxi was curious and couldn't help but laugh. She raised her eyebrows and said, You middle-aged man, your words are really interesting. We killed Tao Wu and got this sword. What do you mean by taking advantage of the situation? If we really took advantage of the situation to get this sword, would you dare to snatch it? The smile in the mercenary leader's eyes deepened. He raised his hand and said, Brothers, I want these two girls alive. Shoot this boy into a hedgehog. Hee, I didn't expect that we, the Scorching Wind mercenary group, would pick up such a big bargain as soon as we arrived in Heaven's Pivot province. Humph, Tao Wu's spirit stones must be in this boy's hands. Get rid of him for me. But be careful, that divine weapon must be powerful. You are the Scorching Wind mercenary group? Lin Muyu suddenly smiled. What's wrong? Have you also heard of the Scorching Wind mercenary group? The mercenary leader said proudly. No. Lin Muyu shook her head. The smile on her face became even more radiant. She smiled and said, You are the leader of the Scorching Wind mercenary group, Lei Qianhai? Do you still remember the Lin Muyu you wanted to kill 4 years ago? Lin Muyu? Lei Qianhai's body trembled as he stared fixedly at Lin Muyu's face. The more he looked at this face, the more familiar it became. Compared to the Lin Muyu of the past, this face was less childish and arrogant, but more calm and composed. Lei Qianhai's hands couldn't help but tremble as he said, You're really the commander of the Lanyan City's Brave Dragon Battalion. Lin Muyu? What, you don't recognize me anymore? The killing intent in Lin Muyu's eyes intensified. Don't tell me you have also forgotten that you sent people to kill me and Chuyao? Lei Qianhai urged his horse to retreat several steps. His face was aghast. Suddenly, his expression turned malevolent. He roared, "Attack, kill them all. Leave no one alive. Quick." Around them, tens of sharp arrows shot towards them. "Block them." Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi formed a defensive formation with their backs against each other. They took out their dragon blood battle shields and instantly, the arrows bounced off the shields. Qin Yin's sacred dragon shield also revolved around her body, deflecting the attacks of the mercenaries. Tang Xiaoxi had it even easier. She used her two-tailed fire fox to blow away the arrows with just the aura of her flames. "Lei Qianhai, you still want to leave?" Lin Muyu leapt up and charged towards Lei Qianhai like an eagle hunting for its prey. She didn't even use her sword. Instead, she suddenly opened her palm and a dense fiery red Do Qi vortex appeared between her fingers. It was the king's Do Qi. Ah! Lei Qianhai suddenly turned around and swept his long blade horizontally. However, with a dang sound, the blade was actually broken by Lin Muyu's palm. The king's Do Qi was simply invincible against this kind of fine steel weapon. Hua! The 5 fingers pierced through Lei Qianhai's condensed Do Qi with an unstoppable force. In the next moment, she had already grabbed Lei Qianhai's throat and lifted him up from his horse. Lei Qianhai's face flushed red as he looked at the red Do Qi revolving around Lin Muyu's arm in shock. With a trembling voice, he said, Kings. Do Qi, you've stepped into the Holy King realm, that's right. You didn't think that retribution would come so late, did you?" Lin Muyu faintly smiled and suddenly exerted strength from her 5 fingers. In an instant, Lei Qianhai's body turned into a pile of ashes that was blown away by the wind. Not a single bone was left. It was already unknown how many innocent people this mercenary leader had killed over the years. However, Lin Muyu was certain that by killing him, she was definitely doing justice for the heavens and eradicating evil for the people. "This little bastard killed the leader, kill him! Kill him!" The bearded mercenary leader roared in a daze. A group of mercenaries wielding heavy shields quickly rushed forward with spears in their hands. Before they even got close, they had already thrown their spears. The Scorching Wind mercenary group could be considered well-trained to actually know such military tactics. Unfortunately, the spears all bounced off the dragon blood battle shield. Lin Muyu didn't waste much effort. She leapt forward and pulled out the stellar sword. With a sudden shout, the 7 luminaries' immortal gourd and god-binding chains quickly disintegrated and fused into a resplendent golden greatsword that enveloped the stellar sword. Kacha! With a single slash, a group of mercenaries along with their shields were cut into 2 halves. They didn't even have the chance to scream before they died. The power of this slash was extraordinary. It directly killed more than 30 shield-wielding heavy infantry soldiers. The Scorching Wind mercenaries behind her were all dumbfounded, as if they had seen the Grim Reaper. Lin Muyu stood majestically with the battle flame dancing around her. She looked down at the crowd like a deity and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Or do you think that you are capable enough to deal with 1 holy king and 2 saint masters?" Everyone trembled in fear. The bearded mercenary leader knelt down on one knee and said, We know we were wrong. We hope that Lord Saint King can make an exception, and spare our worthless lives. We were just trying to make a living, that's all." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu sneered coldly, "I don't even want to talk about the dirty things you have done. However, I have no intention of killing all of you today. I am very curious as to why you still dare to attack after hearing my name. Has the Scorching Wind mercenary group never heard of Lin Muyu?" Yes. The bearded man trembled and said, "Commander, you defeated the powerful demon race in the Wildfire Plains. Everyone in the world knows your name, but, our leader, alright, that's enough." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "Since you know my name, then hurry up and leave before I change my mind." "Yes, we will leave, right now." The Scorching Wind mercenary group hurriedly left. How would they dare to ask for Tao Wu's spiritual stones? After all, even if it was 100,000 years old spiritual beast's spiritual stone, they needed to be alive to enjoy it. Swoosh, Lin Muyu shook her arm and the great treasure sword martial spirit slowly dissipated. She let out a sigh and turned around to look behind her. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi did not kill anyone. They were only protecting themselves. The two girls did not have a strong killing intent. In fact, Lin Muyu knew that both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were very kind girls. They would not kill anyone unless they had no other choice, even if it was a bad guy. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, let's go. Otherwise, there will be more trouble. Yes. The three of them mounted their horses and galloped away from where Swan Ni's corpse was. Along the way, they could still see an endless stream of cultivators and private armies from various clans rushing over. After all, the temptation of a divine weapon was too great. However, the stars were already sheathed, so these people could not see any clues. At most, they only saw Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi as a feast for the eyes. They did not cause too much trouble. After leaving the forest, a group of people came toward them. It was Yuchi Kai and the others. Young hero Lin Ji. Yuchi Kai also recognized Lin Ji. Are you all right? He asked with wide eyes. We're fine. Thank you for your concern, young Master Yuchi. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and smiled. Bai En is simply too powerful. None of us are a match for it, and we were even injured. We won't be staying for long. Young Lord Yuchi, please be careful and pay attention to your safety. Yes. Yuchi Kai looked at Lin Muyu in confusion. Then I won't send you off. Many thanks. Lin Muyu led Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi away on their horses. Yuchi Kai watched in a daze as the three of them went further and further away. At this time, an old man draped in a cloak said indifferently, "Young master, the divine weapon has probably been taken." Elderly, why do you say that? Elderly stroked his beard. The person whom young master called Lin Ji just now, the long sword on his back emitted a very strong sword soul power. It's the highest level of a sacred beast's soul. If there are no accidents, that sword is a divine weapon that everyone is fighting for. What? Yuchi Kai was stunned. Elderly said indifferently, "Young master, should we chase after him and snatch the sword?" Chapter 466. Forget it, Yuchi Kai shook his head gently and said, Actually, I should have thought of it. In the holy temple of Lanyan City, there was also a person who used to call himself Lin Ji. I should have guessed it was him. Elderly was stunned. Young master, are you saying that the lad just now is Lin Muyu of the four heroes of Lanyan City? That's right. A trace of sadness flashed across Yuchi Kai's face and he said, Otherwise, who would have the ability to snatch the divine weapon and kill the fierce beast Swan Ni among more than 10,000 practitioners? Elder Li's eyes were cold. Young master, we have nearly 300 people and many of them are experts with extraordinary cultivation. If we use force, Lin Muyu will be at a disadvantage. As long as we snatch that divine weapon, we can definitely make the family rise again. All we need is an order from young master. Forget it. Yuchi Kai's eyes were cold. Can't Elder see it? Lin Muyu has restrained his aura. It is said that he has already entered the ranks of the Holy Region a few months ago. With his talent, I'm afraid he has already comprehended the king's fighting flame and stepped into the Holy King realm. Although we have more people, can we really defeat a Holy King with dual martial souls? Moreover, Elder, did you notice that Lin Muyu is so respectful to the two beauties behind him? Who else in the world can make Marquis Yunling, Lin Muyu, so respectful? Elder Li was shocked. Does young master think that those two girls are Her Highness Qin Yin and Princess Tang Xiaoxi? Other than the two of them, who else has such peerless beauty and unparalleled temperament? Yuchi Kai sighed and said, People like Lin Muyu are destined to be dragons among men. Why should we be enemies with such people? Forget it, forget it. Yuchi Tian and Yuchi Yen are still struggling at death's door in Lanyan City. Since Her Highness the Empress has turned a blind eye to our Yuchi family, we can't make trouble on our own. Then where do we go now? Let's go to the Cloud Ridge and look around. Let's see if we can find anything. Yes. The war horses galloped until midnight, but they did not see any inns along the way. Left with no choice, they could only sleep in the open. Lin Muyu led the horse, identified the convenient location, and entered the dragon-seeking forest with the two beauties. They found a dry place under a cliff and set up a simple tent. The tent was green in color, so it would not be easily discovered. The late autumn night was cold. The cold wind blew through the forest, and the howling of wolves could be heard in the distance. Lin Muyu carried a pile of dry firewood and lit a bonfire. Then she found a military pot in the cosmos sack, poured some water, added oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar, and washed some of the swan knee's leg meat. According to common sense, this should be the most delicious meat on the swan knee's body. After chopping up the meat, she put it into the pot. After cooking it for a while, she could actually see a blue light seeping out of the pot. Sure enough, it was just as the legend said. The meat of the swan knee's ancient beast could be regarded as spirit meat. After eating it, it could enhance the cultivation of a cultivator. Lin Muyu was secretly happy. If this was true, the swan knee's meat in her cosmos sack, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi added together would be enough for 3 people to eat for half a year. In any case, the meat would not rot in a different space. If she cultivated diligently in this half a year, she might be able to step into the Saint Origin realm. At the very least, she would at least reach the Saint Trace realm. She still had confidence in this. It smells so good. Qin Yin snuggled up to him and said with a smile. Lin Muyu nodded. After eating the meat soup, Xiao Yin, you should circulate the dragon beheading art repeatedly and see if there is any difference in the cultivation effect compared to usual. Gently caressing Qin Yin's fragrant shoulder, Lin Muyu looked at the jealous Tang Xiaoxi and couldn't help but smile. Xiaoxi's 2 fire foxes also need spiritual energy to improve their cultivation, so we should eat one more. I hope the 3 of us can all step into the God realm together, and even reach the God Emperor realm in the end. Only then will I have the opportunity to use the reincarnation power to take you back to my hometown and experience the life there. Tang Xiaoxi giggled. She put down the knife in her hand, knelt on the ground, and gracefully crawled over to Lin Muyu. She put her hands on Lin Muyu's knees and quietly pressed her breasts on his legs. Smiling, she asked, Mu, what is your hometown like? Describe it to me and Xiao Yin first. My hometown, Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, the country I came from is called China, and the city where my hometown is located is called Shanghai. It is a beautiful city, the roads are especially wide, the buildings are very tall, and the donkeys running on the roads are also very dazzling. We have many friends there, including my father and brother, but, his expression darkened. But I don't know why I actually came to this world, and my body in the other world should still be in a deep sleep, right? Or perhaps, my body also disappeared. How worried would my father and brother be? It's okay. Qin Yin rested her face on his chest and said softly, if we have the power of reincarnation, we can completely reverse time and return to the moment when you disappeared. Besides, we have eternal life, so it's okay. Lin Muyu looked at the stars in the sky, holding Qin Yin's hand in one hand and Tang Xiaoxi's hand in the other. He said emotionally, in my world, a man can only love one woman at a time, but, if we really have eternal life, will the 2 of you still accompany me in 1,000 years or 10,000 years? Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked up at him at the same time, their beautiful eyes filled with nostalgia. Qin Yin smiled and said, who knows in 1,000 years or 10,000 years? Even if we can't accompany you, we will always like you and love you. 10,000 years, so long. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes were a bit blurred. She suddenly lowered her head and used her face to caress the back of Lin Muyu's hand. She said softly, ever since we met in Cathaya City, Xiaoxi has liked you. I don't hide my love for you. I don't care what others think of me, I like you. No one can change that. This is my life, how can I be controlled by others? Lin Muyu was very touched. He held the two girls' hands tightly and said, then we have a promise. After 1,000 years or 10,000 years, we will still be together. Yes. The two girls nodded at the same time, their eyes full of seriousness. At this time, the fragrance of meat in the soup pot filled the air. Although the Swanee's body was very large, its muscles were very fine. This meat was naturally not ordinary delicious. Lin Muyu took out bowls, one for each person. The two girls chewed slowly while Lin Muyu ate 3 bowls in a row. No matter how much spirit energy the Swanee meat contained, for Lin Muyu, it was a kind of meat that could replenish her strength. Soon, the pot of meat was finished. After drinking water, it was already late at night. The 3 horses were grazing in the valley not far away. It was time for them to sleep. This tent was not big, but it was not small either. After lying down, Lin Muyu's heart was beating like a drum. Although Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were also sleeping in their clothes, it would be a lie to say that he was not tempted to lie with 2 stunning beauties. As a result, he sat up and cultivated. The dragon forging bone remnant scroll forged new skills and blood vessels. After 1 cycle, Lin Muyu felt a mysterious spirit energy emerge from the depths of her body. This was the spirit energy provided by the Swanee's meat. After the 2nd cycle of the dragon forging bone remnant scroll, the strength of the battle chi in her chi si also seemed to be a lot more tyrannical. The capacity of her chi si was also clearly increased. Sure enough, after eating the Swanee's meat, the effect of cultivation was as much as 4 to 5 times that of normal. Overjoyed, Lin Muyu silently cultivated. On the side, Qin Yin was quietly cultivating the dragon slayer art with her eyes closed. Tang Xiaoxi was leaning against the quilt. She didn't know when she had fallen asleep, but the 2-tailed fire fox on her shoulder was constantly jumping. It seemed that it could absorb the spirit energy provided by the Swanee's meat even when its master was asleep. The fire fox's tail gradually grew stronger, which also meant that the power of Tang Xiaoxi's martial soul was also becoming more powerful. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Muyu slowly opened his eyes. The king's battle flame in his chi si had become increasingly vigorous. The cultivation effect was very obvious. But at this moment, an extremely strange feeling of heat rose from the depths of his heart. He was almost unable to close his eyes. His whole body was also covered in sweat. The heat in his body had to be expelled quickly. What was even more strange was that his mind seemed to be quickly losing control. Xiao Yin, he curled up in the quilt, desperately using the king's battle flame to suppress the restlessness in his body. What's wrong, you? Qin Yin lowered her head to look at him. She bent down and moved her face close to his. This was even more incredible. A restlessness that came from the bottom of his heart made Lin Muyu completely unable to calm down. He quickly hugged Qin Yin and kissed her red lips. His palm climbed up to the holy and pure peaks that people yearned for. But Qin Yin let out a whimper and gently pushed him away. She asked, "Big brother, what's wrong with you?" I also don't know. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. His face was completely red. It feels like I've been drugged. Qin Yin frowned and said, "What's going on? We're eating the same thing." Lin Muyu let out a whimper. It was even more unbearable. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi lay on her side in his arms. It was like a long drought meeting sweet dew. Tang Xiaoxi felt that she was being hugged in her sleep. She hurriedly opened her eyes and saw that it was Lin Muyu. It was a false alarm. Just as she was about to go back to sleep, Lin Muyu's scorching breath blew on her face. It was a little abnormal. Ah. Tang Xiaoxi opened her eyes and looked at Lin Muyu's faintly red energy sea. She said, "My God. Mu's energy sea is expanding." "Why, Xiaoxi?" Qin Yin hurriedly asked. "I also don't know. Is it because of the Tao's meat?" Tang Xiaoxi's eyes widened. She said, "It must be." It is said that the Tao's meat is of the fire attribute and it is very violent. After eating it, women can resist it with their purine body, but men can't. So, men who eat the Tao's meat will quickly find a woman, that, she blushed and couldn't go on. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu's uncomfortable appearance and instantly blushed. She said, then what should we do, Xiao Shi? I, or you, have to help him. Tang Xiaoxi looked at her best friend and said with a smile, all right, Xiao Yin, don't think too much. Although this kind of hot breath can be vented in that way, there are 10,000 other ways. So, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you, hee. Looking at Tang Xiaoxi who was grinning mischievously, Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. She said, what other way is there? Quickly try it. Brother, you look so uncomfortable, Tang Xiaoxi sat up and helped Lin Muyu up. With a wave of one hand, an indigo seal suddenly appeared in the palm of her hand. She pressed it on Lin Muyu's Qihai, mind-clearing incantation. Again, Lin Muyu's mind instantly became clear. After opening her eyes, she said faintly. Seeing that he was fine, Qin Yin also felt relieved. But before she had time to rejoice, her heart was in a mess. She asked, why did you say, again? This. Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi fell silent together. They turned their heads together and stared outside the tent like owls who had done something wrong. Chapter 467. After the fifth night watch period, the east was slowly turning bright. The sun was about to break through the horizon. The dawn in the dragon-searching forest was quiet. The forest in late autumn was filled with broken leaves. Among the dense shrubs, a male pheasant with golden feathers walked up to a shrub in a dignified manner. He raised his neck and screeched into the sky, oh. After the chirp, it seemed to be very proud of itself. The feathers on its buttocks stood up. It took a deep breath and let out another long chirp. However, before the chirp stopped, there was a sound of wind behind it. A ferocious wolf pounced on it and bit the pheasant's neck into pieces. Blood gushed out, and the chirp stopped abruptly. Lin Muyu opened his sleepy eyes. He didn't know when, but Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were sleeping soundly in his arms. He looked up at the sky in the distance and squinted his eyes. He was in a dilemma. He didn't know if he should get up and hurry on his way or enjoy the warmth of the two beauties in his arms. At this moment, Qin Yin also woke up and asked, what's wrong? A pheasant chirped, but it stopped halfway. I think it was murdered. Lin Muyu said lightly. Qin Yin sat up and rubbed her beautiful eyes. Then, she stroked her long hair and smiled at Lin Muyu in a dignified manner. She said sweetly, good morning, brother Yu. Lin Muyu didn't know how to answer. After a moment of silence, she said, good morning, Xiao Yin. By the way, after eating the swanee meat yesterday, how's your cultivation progress? It seems like my cultivation is growing very fast. Qin Yin opened her hands gently and silently circulated her strength. Immediately, the true dragon god binding chains appeared in her palms. In the next moment, rays of dazzling fighting energy began to spin. It was the starry fighting aura. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Congratulations, Xiao Shi. You've stepped into the middle stage of the first heaven of the Saint Realm. This is the starry fighting aura. Qin Yin was pleasantly surprised. She smiled and said, I can feel the strength in my body making a breakthrough as well. This trip to the Yunling Mountains was indeed very rewarding. On the side, Tang Xiaoxi slowly woke up and hugged Lin Muyu's left wrist. The sky isn't completely bright yet. Are you sure you want to get up now? Lin Muyu said, we are hiding in the tent. No matter who they are in the dark and we are in the light. Xiao Shi, don't sleep so much. Get up quickly. Let's go back to Lanyan City as soon as possible. Xiao Yin has been away from Lanyan City for so many days. I don't know how Second Duke and Brother Feng are handling the political affairs. All right, Lin Muyu opened the tent. There was a little fog in the jungle, but it was not very thick. She started to cook breakfast again. It was still swanny meat. Cultivating was the most important thing. This world was full of all kinds of dangers, and strength was the only way to prove the Tao. Otherwise, if she was not strong enough, no one would listen to her. After a full meal, she tidied up the tent, found 3 warhorses, and galloped out of the dragon-seeking forest. Sitting on the warhorse, she continued to cultivate. After refining the spiritual energy of the swanny meat in her stomach, Tang Xiaoxi would cast a mind-cleansing incantation on her when she felt hot. It seemed that Lin Muyu's cultivation would be inseparable from Tang Xiaoxi soon. At noon on the 7th day, the 3 of them had made great progress in their cultivation. After being replenished by the spiritual energy of the swanny meat, Tang Xiaoxi's advancement was the fastest. At noon, she had already cultivated her fire fox martial soul to 3 tails. She could be said to be the number 1 person in the 7 Seas Tang sect. As for Qin Yin, she continued to cultivate her star jade dough light. In the afternoon, when Lin Muyu had circulated the forging dragon bone remnant scroll for an unknown number of times, the king's dough flame in his qi si became more and more red. Moreover, its intensity also became more and more vigorous. The strength in his body had clearly increased by a level. Needless to say, he had already broken through a small realm. From the initial stage of the Holy Grandmaster realm, he had broken through to the initial stage of the Holy Grandmaster realm. As this realm continued to increase, the power of the king's dough flame would also increase step by step to a new realm. When it was close to evening, a courier house appeared on the official road of the Zhangnan province. Qin Yin cheerfully said, "Many days of eating and sleeping in the open, let's find a courier house to rest in today. And this is the place. It's already dark." All right. When the 3 of them arrived at the courier house, they saw a group of cavalry galloping towards them from afar. The leader was a man wearing the military insignia of captaincy. He looked to be around 40 years old and had a masculine face. After dismounting from his horse, he said to the courier house worker, "Today, we'll be booking all the rooms and stables in the courier house." Lin Muyu was taken aback. He urged his horse forward and cupped his fists, saying, "General, my 2 cousins and I have also come to this courier house. We've been eating and sleeping in the open for many days. Do you think you can lend us 2 rooms? Captaincy raised his eyebrows. When he saw that Lin Muyu was only an ordinary knight, he couldn't help but draw back the corners of his mouth and said, "Isn't it normal for you knight-errant knights to eat and drink in the open?" "I'm sorry, young man. We'll be booking the entire courier house for today. Here are 10 Jin Yin coins. Consider it your compensation." This. Lin Muyu pushed away his money pouch and said, "General, we were obviously here first." The courier house worker saw that the situation wasn't looking good and hurriedly stepped forward. He whispered into Lin Muyu's ear, "Young hero, you see, the arm is no match for the thigh. It's obvious that this military officer is a high-ranking official. Since he's already given you a way out of this embarrassing situation, don't be so unforgiving. Don't we come out to travel the pugilistic world for the sake of harmony and wealth?" Qin Yin, who was standing behind Lin Muyu, was unhappy. She slapped her horse forward and said, "Why should we give in to him? We want 2 rooms today. He has to give it to us even if he doesn't want to." It was obvious that this captaincy had never seen Qin Yin, the empress. The corner of his mouth immediately curled up and he sneered, "Where did this sharp-tongued little girl come from? Let me tell you, this is a courier house. It's a resting place prepared for the empire's high-ranking officials, nobles, and soldiers. You people who travel the pugilistic world should rest in the taverns in the countryside." Tang Xiaoxi came to Qin Yin's side and asked indifferently, "What's your name?" "What do you mean?" Captaincy narrowed his eyes and said, "Little girl, are you asking for my name? Do you think you're qualified to ask for my name?" Tang Xiaoxi took another look at his emblem and said, "You're from Tianji City in the 7 Seas province? Tell me, what's your name? By right, you should know me." "Huh, how interesting. Captaincy crossed his arms and said proudly, "My name is Lu Zhong, the military governor of Tianji City in the Seven Seas province. My title is Earl Tianji. Are you satisfied now?" Tang Xiaoxi reached into her bosom and took out a token. It was the Tang Sex Iron token. She said, "Lu Zhong, do you recognize this?" Lu Zhong took a look and immediately got off his horse. He knelt on one knee respectfully and said, "General Lu Zhong, greets Princess Shi." "Humph, it's good that you know." Tang Xiaoxi raised her eyebrows and said, "Can you free up 2 rooms for us now?" "Yes, of course." Lu Zhong respectfully cupped his fists and stood up, saying, "Princess, why are you in Sangnan province? Logically speaking, shouldn't you stay in Lanyan City to help Her Highness manage the affairs?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly. "No, my mission now is to come out and play with Her Highness." "Ah." Lu Zhong was stunned. He looked at the noble young lady beside Tang Xiaoxi and couldn't help but tremble. For a moment, he felt that the world was about to collapse. He hurriedly knelt down and cupped his fists. "I, Lu Zhong, deserve to die. Please forgive me, Your Highness." A group of captaincy and kiliarchs from Tianji City knelt down together. Hundreds of people knelt together and shouted, "Long live Your Highness." Qin Yin frowned. She didn't intend to alarm so many people, so she raised her hand and said, "You may rise. There's no need to stand on ceremony." "All right, I'm tired. I'm going to rest." "Yes." Lu Zhong nodded and said, "I'll arrange a banquet to welcome Your Highness." As he spoke, Lu Zhong looked at Lin Muyu and said, "Young hero, may I know who you are?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly. Who else would be accompanying Her Highness Qin Yin? Could it be? Lu Zhong hurriedly gave a standard military salute and said, "Lu Zhong, pay my respects to Commander Yu. There's no need to be so polite. Go in and don't let anyone know about Her Highness's situation in Sangnan province." "Do you understand, General Lu?" "Yes, I'll keep that in mind." Not long after, almost all the original guests in the post house had left. Lu Zhong arranged a very sumptuous meal in the lobby of the post house and invited Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Lin Muyu to the banquet. Since they had to eat their fill, Lin Muyu didn't refuse. Only 5 people were qualified to eat with the Empress: Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Count of Tianji Lu Zhong, and his 2 sons, Lu Chong and Lu Shan. The candlelight swayed gently. Under Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique, Lu Zhong's cultivation was roughly at the peak of the first heaven of the heaven realm. He was already considered outstanding among the captaincy of the empire, and his cultivation was about the same as Wei Chou and Luo Yu. As for his 2 sons, Lu Chong was around 20 years old and was at the first heaven of the earth realm. Lu Shan was at the 3rd heaven of the man realm. They weren't very strong, but they were considered good among the younger generation. Lu Zhong raised his cup and said respectfully, "I'll punish myself with a cup of wine first." As he spoke, he drank it in one gulp and continued to look at Qin Yin respectfully, saying, "I wonder why Your Highness, Princess Shi, and Commander Yu left Lanyan City and came to Sangnan province. Is it also for the heaven-grade weapon on the Cloud Ridge in Tianshu province?" Qin Yin nodded and said, "That's right." As she spoke, her pair of beautiful eyes flashed and disappeared. She asked in reply, "I don't know why Uncle Tianji brought nearly 1,000 men and horses to Sangnan province with such a large force." Lu Zhong was a little ashamed and said, "Actually, I also wanted to seize this heaven-grade weapon and offer it to Your Highness. I hope Your Highness won't blame me." Qin Yin said faintly, "The local garrison generals are not allowed to leave the city without permission. I wonder if General is aware of this military law of the empire." "I know, Your Highness, please calm down." Lu Zhong hurriedly retreated and knelt down, knocking his forehead heavily on the floor. "It's all right." Qin Yin raised her hand and said, "You may rise. I don't blame you. Bring your men back to Tianji City tomorrow morning, understand? That's where your duty lies." "Yes, Your Highness. I will obey." Chapter 468. Late at night, a light drizzle fell from the sky. The cool drizzle drifted in through the window of the post house, and Lin Muyu stood there quietly with her stellar sword in her hand. It was another cloudy night, and there was no way for her to cultivate the stellar arts. Fortunately, she still had a piece of roasted swan meat in her universe bag. After taking it out and chewing it carefully, she used the clear heart incantation taught by Tang Xiaoxi to resist the heat energy brought by the swan meat. SSSSSS, an almost inaudible sound came from her meridians, and she could faintly see a fiery red aura moving in her meridians. That was the light of the king's fighting flame. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and continued to use the dragon forging bone remnant scroll to refine the strength of her king's fighting flame. At the same time, she absorbed the spirit energy from the swan meat to refine the intensity and purity of the king's fighting flame, making it even more powerful. Probably because the window was open, the bell-like laughter of Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin came from the room next door. It was late at night, but they still hadn't slept and were still laughing. After an unknown amount of time, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's laughter became fainter and fainter. They had probably gone to sleep. Huff, Lin Muyu leisurely exhaled, and a faint flame flowed out of her mouth. This was the impure aura of the king's fighting flame. The king's fighting flame was formed by the cultivator's qi, and it was refined by gathering the spirit energy of the world. The ultimate goal of refining the king's fighting flame was to refine it to 100% purity and remove the impure aura. Obviously, Lin Muyu was still far from that. If she could really cultivate the king's fighting flame to 100% purity, her power would probably be comparable to the holy heaven realm Chu Chu. She turned around and went back to her room, and her body felt a little hot. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Xiaochen silently recited the mantra for the cleansing heart incantation. The king's battle flame slowly flowed through his body, dispelling the burning sensation from Swan Ni's flesh. This cleansing heart incantation was indeed very useful. It was worthy of being one of the 7 C's Tang sect's secret arts. Placing the star's sword next to her pillow, Lin Muyu subconsciously released her spirit pulse art to sense her surroundings. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin's auras were slowly decreasing. Once a cultivator fell asleep, their auras would also enter a dormant state, which made it very difficult for others to sense them. Aside from the 2 girls' auras, there were also the auras of Lu Zhong, Lu Chon, and Lu Shan, who had not fallen asleep yet. Quietly closing her eyes, Lin Muyu slowly fell asleep. However, the king's fighting flame in her body actually appeared on the surface of her body along with the star art's Xian energy, forming a faint fiery red star lotus armor to protect its sleeping master. In the dream, the sound of iron hooves was very intense. Lin Muyu frowned and stood on the grass with a sharp sword in his hand. He was wearing a broken Imperial Guard armor and was covered in blood. He roared, "Ah ah." In the distance, the Yihan nation's battle flag was flying in the air. Countless iron hooves spurred their horses and rushed over. There was even a general shouting, "The person who beheads Lin Muyu will be rewarded with 100,000 gold." The sound of iron hooves was dense. In the dream, Lin Muyu's arms were weak, and the battle chi in his body seemed to have been exhausted. "Come on." He roared unwillingly and raised his arm. The 7 luminaries' Xian energy brought with it a blue starlight, and the 7 luminary stars' transformation whizzed out. However, the surging star power seemed to be too strong. It instantly swallowed his right arm, and his entire arm exploded, turning into a pile of flesh and blood. Ah ah ah, Lin Muyu knelt on the ground, and her eyes were already blood red. "You! Hurry up and leave." A voice that hadn't been heard for a long time came from behind. It was Chu Huaying. He was wearing silver armor and a snow-white robe. He held a sword in his hand, and starlight flowed in his palm. The star-plucking finger landed heavily on the crowd, causing a group of Yihan nation's iron hooves to howl in pain. Then, Chu Huaying raised his sword and ordered loudly, "Flying Mount Battalion, follow me. Protect His Highness and Lin Muyu." The iron hooves from both sides clashed, and the entire sky was filled with blood. Pfft, no one knew who it was, but Chu Huaying's left arm was cut in half. Countless spears suddenly pierced through his handsome body, and blood stained his white robe. He fell from his horse and rolled into the mud. However, he still held onto his sword and shouted in a hoarse voice, "For the Empire, for His Highness, charge and kill." The black mass of Iha Nation's iron hooves swept past, and Chu Huaying's body drifted away like a fallen leaf in the wind. Lin Muyu raised her head and looked at everything helplessly and angrily. She felt as if all the energy in her body had been sucked dry, and she roared like a wild beast, Don't kill him. You bastards, don't kill him." The scene suddenly changed. Lin Muyu was kneeling in a puddle of water. "Where is this? Brother Chu? Where's Brother Chu?" He looked around in a daze, and tears filled his eyes. However, he saw a corpse floating in the puddle a few meters away. It was the radiant prince, Qin Jin. At this moment, Qin Jin was lying quietly at the bottom of the puddle, his eyes wide open. There were many blood-red bruises on his neck, and the desolation sword in his hand had already been snatched away. Suddenly, a figure emerged from Qin Jin's body. He was still as dignified as before, but his gaze towards Lin Muyu was very gentle. He smiled faintly and said, You've finally come to see me?" Lin Muyu slowly stood up and looked at Qin Jin. Father has already left this world." Qin Jin looked deeply at him and said, I've been keeping a low profile all my life, thinking that I could make the empire stronger and more prosperous. However, I never thought that this would be the result. I've never treated you like a real father. You won't blame me, right?" Lin Muyu's body trembled. She did not answer Qin Jin's question, but asked, "Father, before you went to Fairy Lake, did you know that Qin Yi would send people to kill you?" "So what if I knew? So what if I didn't?" Qin Jin's eyes were filled with peace and tranquility. He smiled slightly and said, "What will come will come. There's no escaping this. You're a strong child. I've always known that, and I also believe that you'll be able to accomplish great things. However, I can't stop worrying about Xiao Yin, and I can't stop worrying about my only daughter." Lin Muyu nodded and looked at the ripples on the surface of the water. It was unknown when it had started raining. He raised his head to look at Qin Jin and said, "Father, I'll take good care of Xiao Yin and do my best to protect her." Qin Jin's spiritual body slowly flew forward and placed his palm on Lin Muyu's shoulder. His eyes were filled with kindness as he slowly raised his palm and caressed Lin Muyu's face, which had been carved by the hardships of time. 2 streams of tears slowly flowed down and splashed onto the surface of the water. Qin Jin, the King of Light, was actually crying. He said tearfully, My son, you're the greatest pride of my life. I've let you down, so please don't blame me. Help me take good care of your younger sister, Xiao Yin. I've let the world down, and the only thing I can do is be a good father. I have to leave. Take care." As he spoke, Qin Jin's spiritual body turned into starlight and flew towards the heavenly river in the sky like a firefly. Lin Muyu slowly knelt down in the pool, and the tears in his eyes finally flowed out. He held onto his sharp sword with one hand and pressed his other hand into the mud, as if he was a knight on guard. He looked up at the sky and said, "Father, rest in peace. I'll take good care of Xiao Yin. I'll also take back the world for you." Lin Muyu suddenly woke up from his dream. When he opened his eyes, it was already dawn. His cheeks were wet. He had actually cried in his dream. But today, Lin Muyu was no longer the same as before. Weakness was like poison to him. He quickly raised his hand to wipe away his tears. How could Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, cry? But just as he raised his hand, Lin Muyu realized that the treasured sword of stars next to his pillow had disappeared without a trace. Oh my God! His body suddenly trembled. The treasured sword of stars was gone. He hurriedly turned over to look for it, but he still couldn't find any trace of the treasured sword of stars. He immediately became anxious. The treasured sword of stars was a first-grade sacred artifact, but the sword spirit of the treasured sword was his master, the sword elder. How could he let this sword be lost in his hands? He hurriedly put on his clothes and went out the door, only to find Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi walking towards him with breakfast in their hands. "What's wrong, big brother you?" Qin Yin asked in surprise. "The treasured sword of stars has been stolen." Lin Muyu clenched her fist and said angrily, "Someone actually stole the treasured sword of stars without anyone noticing. It's all my fault for being too careless." "It can't be." Tang Xiaoxi's mouth opened wide. "Mu, aren't you well versed in the spiritual pulse technique? With your ability, who could get so close to you without anyone noticing? I don't know either. Hurry up and find it." "Okay." The two girls didn't care about eating anymore. Qin Yin directly went downstairs and shouted, "Lu Zhong!" Uncle Tianji, who was dressed in iron armor, was about to go out. He hurriedly turned around and cupped his fists respectfully. "Your Highness, please give me your orders. Commander Yu's treasured sword of stars has been lost. Immediately gather your men and search the entire post house. Find it for me." "Yes." Lu Zhong's face was filled with shock. "May I ask your Highness, the treasured sword of stars, a substandard divine artifact? It's a divine artifact that fell from the heaven realm on the cloud ridge." "Oh my God." Lu Zhong was shocked. "I'll send people to find it now." "Good. If you can find it, you will be rewarded handsomely." "Yes." Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and looked at Lu Zhong's group. She slowly activated the spiritual pulse technique. The range of detection was getting bigger and bigger. However, she couldn't sense the slightest aura of the treasured sword within a mile. She continued to inject her king's battle flame into the spiritual pulse technique and extended the detection radius, 2 miles. 3 miles. 4 miles. 5 miles. 6 miles. When the spiritual pulse technique extended to 10 miles, it was already the limit of the strength of Lin Muyu's soul. However, at this moment, a familiar fluctuation suddenly appeared in the spiritual pulse technique. It was the sword's soul power of the treasured sword of stars. "Found it." Lin Muyu clapped her hands and said, "Shao Yin, the treasured sword of stars is in the west. It's in the direction of Lanyan City. Let's chase after it. I want to see who has the guts to steal my things." "Okay." It was still drizzling in the morning. The three of them put on their straw raincoats and got on their horses. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the misty rain. Outside the post house, Lu Zhong, Lu Chong, and Lu Shan respectfully sent the Empress off. When the three of them were far away, Lu Chong raised his head and a glint flashed across his eyes. Lu Chong asked, "Father, is that treasured sword of stars really a divine artifact?" "Her Highness said it's a substandard divine artifact. It's even higher than a holy divine artifact. It's one of a kind in this realm." Lu Zhong's eyes were filled with excitement. He lowered his voice and said, "Chong, how strong are the people you sent? Will they be captured by Lin Muyu? He's a holy king who has the king's battle flame." "Absolutely not," Lu Chong said confidently. Chapter 469. Tuck, 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 the sound of hooves beating on the muddy ground could be heard. The 3 warhorses were all fine horses of the endless forest, so their bodies were relatively heavy. Their hooves kicked up the mud on the official road as they galloped forward like 3 bolts of lightning. Riding on the warhorse, Lin Muyu concentrated the power of her soul and soon found the aura of the sword soul again. Perhaps the person who stole the sword would not have thought that he could find the sword by relying on the location of the sword soul. Treading on the snow, she was getting closer and closer. In the blink of an eye, she was less than a mile away from the thief. At this time, the rain had stopped. Looking from afar, a man in black tights was galloping on the official road. Unfortunately, his horse was not as majestic as Lin Muyu's and the others, and he was about to be caught up. Suddenly, he looked back and couldn't help but tremble when he saw Lin Muyu. And Lin Muyu also saw clearly that the long sword on the back of this man was Xing Chen. How dare he steal it from me? Lin Muyu was a little sad and indignant. She was the Grand Deacon of the Holy Temple of the Empire, and was also praised by Qin Yin as the strongest person under the age of 30 in the Empire. Now, her long sword was stolen from her room. It was a great shame. Seeing that the warhorse could not outrun her, the thief immediately pulled the reins and led the warhorse to the side of the forest. Walala, this was a forest full of bushes and thorns. The horse was quickly stabbed and cried out in pain. When Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi arrived, they only saw the neck of the horse full of blood. It stood there swinging its tail, and the person had disappeared. What a fast movement. What kind of lightness skill was that? Lin Muyu quickly turned over and dismounted from the horse. She turned around and said, I will chase him with falling star steps. Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, you two lead the horse and wait for me here. I will come back after I catch up with him. Well, brother Yu, be careful. Be careful, Mu. The two girls looked up at the same time. They also knew that they could not catch up with Lin Muyu in the forest. Moreover, the thief seemed to have extraordinary skills. Even if they caught up with him, he would only be a burden to Lin Muyu. Swoosh, stepping on the astral light, Lin Muyu disappeared into the forest like a shadow. Her king's battle flame was slowly rising. Using the spirit pulse spell, she locked onto the thief's position. When Lin Muyu suddenly passed through the broad-leaved forest, she saw that the thief was only a few hundred meters away from her. His running speed was frighteningly fast. His legs were running as if he was flying. Stepping on the grass and leaves, she could faintly see the light of battle chi surrounding his body. Damn, he's a heaven realm warrior. There are really many extraordinary people in this continent. Lin Muyu sprinted with all her might. Her speed had already been raised to the limit. Her falling star steps swept through the forest like a meteor falling to the ground. At the same time, she let out popping sounds as if she was flying. However, the thief's speed did not seem to be inferior. He carried the star's sword on his back and continued to run. His feet were surrounded by a dense wind-type fighting energy. Every step he took seemed to be using a mystic technique that could shrink the ground to inches. Although it was a distance of tens of meters, he was able to cover it in a single leap. His body was like a phantom and was very mysterious. What kind of damned qigong is this? Lin Muyu was a little speechless. Ever since she came to the Shattered Cauldron realm, this was the first time she saw someone who could beat her falling star steps in qigong. This person was really not simple. Moreover, even at such a close distance, Lin Muyu's star steps couldn't sense the thief's aura at all. It was as if the thief's aura was completely concealed. In the end, Lin Muyu chased with all her might. The thief also ran with all his might. One in front, one behind. No one could catch up, and no one could escape. Just like that, they passed through the mountain road at the side of the official road. After running for nearly 20 kilometers, the thief finally showed a trace of fatigue. The distance between the two was getting closer. Presumably, his qigong also consumed a lot of fighting energy. His fighting energy was obviously not as vigorous and long as Lin Muyu's king fighting flame. He lost in terms of cultivation. Swoosh, the thief suddenly stopped running. He raised his hand and pulled out the star's sword. He roared angrily, "Bastard, why are you chasing me so hard?" The star's sword was full of fighting energy. The power of a divine weapon could not be underestimated. At this moment, Lin Muyu couldn't take it head-on with her bare hands. She suddenly spun her body and dodged the star's sword slash with her butterfly steps. Her arm moved smoothly and the back of her hand, which was full of king fighting flame, lightly hit the thief's back. Bang! The battle armor shattered instantly. She never expected that the thief was actually a heavenly king. But obviously, the heavenly king's strength was inferior to the holy king's by 3 realms. He wasn't a match for him at all. Lin Muyu's casual attack directly caused him to vomit blood. Damn it! The thief flew into a rage out of humiliation. He turned around and swept out a second attack. Lin Muyu didn't even use the pressure of her holy realm to suppress him. Instead, she wanted to test the thief's skills. She suddenly leaned back and did a metal bridge. At the same time, she raised her boot and kicked the thief's wrist with her king fighting flame. The thief reacted very quickly. He turned his wrist and twisted the blade of his sword in the air. He turned around and slashed at Lin Muyu's foot. How could this be? Lin Muyu immediately activated the Seven Luminaries' Holy Gourd's ability, Dragon Blood Shield. In the next moment, the star's sword struck the Dragon Blood Shield and rebounded with a clang. Lin Muyu took advantage of this opportunity to open her palm. Strands of astral power appeared and wrapped around the blade of the star's sword. She suddenly pulled it back. Return it to me. The strength of a holy king was so powerful that she directly dragged the thief and the sword back. Buzz, buzz, a golden gourd wall disintegrated into countless golden armor leaves and wrapped around Lin Muyu's 5 fingers. The golden steel palm grabbed the blade of the star's sword and quickly snatched it away. At the same time, she raised her battle knee and slammed 10% of her king fighting flame into the thief's abdomen. Arg! The thief spat out another mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. His body spasmed and he was about to be crippled. Lin Muyu sheathed the star's sword and went up to the thief's face mask. She found that it was a young man around 25 years old. His eyes were filled with anger. Who are you? I will never change my name or my surname. He slowly sat up, his eyes filled with pride as he said, I am Bai Yin. Bai Yin? I don't know you. Lin Muyu shook her head. You. Bai Yin was furious. He felt that his pride had been hurt. You don't even know the famous thief Saint Bai Yin. How dare you live in Jianghu? Humph, what a joke. You're the joke. Lin Muyu smiled with an imposing manner. Do you know who I am? Who are you? Do you know Lin Muyu? You're Lin Muyu. Bai Yin couldn't help but laugh out loud. If you're the famous General Lin Muyu, then I'm the reincarnation of the god of war, Xiang Wendian. I can't explain it to you. Lin Muyu went up and slapped the back of Bai Yin's head, knocking him out. She put him under her armpit and used falling star steps to go back. She returned to where she was in less than an hour. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were waiting anxiously. When they saw Lin Muyu come back, they went up to greet her. You caught him? Yes. Lin Muyu threw the thief to the ground and said, This is the person who stole the stellar sword. He's quite skilled and calls himself the thief Saint Bai Yin. I've never heard of him before. Ah. Tang Xiaoxi couldn't help but laugh. Silly Mu, you're so focused on the empire's military affairs that you don't know about the rumors in Jianghu. This thief Saint Bai Yin is a famous figure in Jianghu. Oh. How famous is he? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Yin, who was at the side, was also waiting for Tang Xiaoxi's reply with her eyes wide open. It was clear that she lived in Zetian Palace every day and didn't have the time to listen to the rumors in Jianghu. Tang Xiaoxi said, Thief Saint Bai Yin, 27 or 28 years old, can be said to be a legend of a generation. It's said that he studied under the thief god Zhuge Xing when he was very young. He was struck by lightning when he was young, but he didn't die. Instead, he obtained an extraordinary cultivation. He followed Zhuge Xing and practiced the turtle breathing technique, absolute step, Yangshan art, and other secret arts since he was young. He can take things from a distance and become invisible like a shadow. There's such a thing. Lin Muyu looked at the unconscious Bai Yin on the ground and said, Humph. Didn't I still easily knock him out? Tang Xiaoxi tilted her head and looked at her proud expression. She couldn't help but smile affectionately. Silly Mu, do you think everyone has your mysterious encounters and almost abnormal cultivation speed? If you didn't exist in this world, Bai Yin might be the strongest person in the younger generation. That's true. Lin Muyu nodded. Bai Yin had the cultivation of a heavenly king at the age of 27, while Xiangyu had only stepped into the heavenly king realm at the age of 31. This meant that Bai Yin's strength was already firmly above Xiangyu's, but slightly inferior to Feng Jixing's. Now, how does Big Brother you plan to deal with this thief saint? Qin Yin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu muttered to herself and said, I can't let this brat go around stealing things. Since he fell into my hands today, I will tame him and make him serve the empire. Shao Yin, confer him an official title. How about it? All right, I'll listen to you. Splash, the water in the water bag splashed onto Bai Yin's face. He woke up with a start and said angrily, stinking B****, let me go if you have the guts. I want to fight 300 rounds with you and decide who's the stronger. I didn't tie you up. Lin Muyu stood majestically. The fighting flame on her body slowly spun, and the pressure of the sacred lingered around, causing Bai Yin to feel a chill from the bottom of his heart. This was Lin Muyu's true strength, an ability that completely surpassed the heaven realm. It could be said that with Bai Yin's current cultivation, Lin Muyu could fight 10 of him. I'm not feeling well today. I'll beat you up another day. Bai Yin said, unconvinced. Bai Yin, you stole the sword of the commander of the Empire's Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu. Do you know your crime? To the side, Qin Yin's pretty face was cold as she spoke with authority. This kind of presence was not something a normal woman could have. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.